Yellow.
Yellow, yellow, and a bottle of rum to you, Mr. Splinter. How are you doing this lovely Wednesday night?
Pretty good, Mr. Gorog. Pretty good.
I have to say,
What's going on?
I like being able to easily figure out, now that I'm back in America, how to the time differentials between where you are living and where I am living, instead of just me being on the other opposite side of the world, like having like an abacus and like 3 MIT engineers trying to figure out the same time. Like, okay, so if I start here, then he'll be there, and then we'll have to talk then, but I won't be able to talk then. So we just keep figuring it all out. So yeah.
Yeah, we didn't have that huge of an issue time wise when you were in Australia. That's like 8 hours in it over there, rather than the 3 hours from here in the Nevada area, the Pacific, and you on the East Coast.
Yeah, East Coast represent. I am not even close to being related into a gang or anything that even is screaming of rebellion, but I still got to represent like the East Coast side of like the sedate Maryland-esque Easton place or somewhere around Fairfax. Like, oh, okay, so we can, I don't know, have civil discourse like a badass. Bam.
Oh yeah, you gotta represent, and yeah, at least you remember where you came from. That's as a vital part in every man's life. You gotta remember where you came from.
And it's also important that we as video game players do not forget where we've come from or where we're going. And there was just a video that I was watching that was kind of funny, where it was an 80-year-old grandpa who plays video games who enjoys like Halo 4, and it's just a very, very cute little video. It's like, oh, okay, so the whole stigmata of like, okay, old people don't enjoy video games. Like that's hogwash, good sir. I also, speaking of remembering things, I also want to bring back terminology from the early 19th century of just like that, and I've all playing Django. I'm sorry, watching Django Unchained and replaying some Red Dead Redemption. I'm like, they have like this really cool terminology that nobody uses these days, like haberdashers. I love haberdasheries.
Haberdasheries, and yeah, that's the only one that sticks out in mind.
Not the actual like social inequality, like slavery. Like I don't want that to come back in style. Trust me. But just like the fact that they like everyone was loquacious, even like the bandits were like always like, dear sir, you impugn my honor, and then like would beat the crap out of you and then take your money. It's like, there, now I let me abscond with your delightful financial savings.
Yeah, well, some of that stuff and mentality has stuck right where it belongs in the past, and some of it is still translated and to this day still it's kind of the same shit going on with snake oil salesman.
Yes,
around every corner.
Love that term. In fact, I will try to bring that back into style. Just like people are just like, oh, what's the next big diet craze? We had Atkins, then we have this whole like no alcohol, no sugar diets. Like for me, it's going to be just snake oil. You put this tiny dab of snake oil onto your burger, and bam, you're thin within a year, or dead. Either way, you will not be gaining any weight.
Yes, sit on your couch all day and lose 10 pounds instantly.
Followed by the ability to see, and then your motor system.
I know. God damn.
Just today, I think in today's culture we are. I don't know what it is, but it's like that we are so focused on sort of turning terms around that we already know, and not really either looking into the past that deeply for new ones or making up new words ourselves. But it feels like we're kind of stagnating right now. And like, for instance, I wish, I'm guilty of this too, where people say like, yeah, and we were doing it with this over here and shit, that like this, we're doing this shit over here. It's like, come on, it's got to be a better word. There's got to be better synonyms. And there's a bunch out there, and then nobody ever looks into it.
There is. It's just that it's a lot easier and it feels more genuine, quote unquote, when you say it like that.
Yeah.
Shit.
Yeah. Well, it wouldn't be as impactful if The Wire said like, You think I'm going down for the man's crimes? Well, gosh darn it.
I don't know. It seems to be uh, slightly increasing every now and then. People always filtering themselves in and censoring themselves in order to kind of avoid any type of confrontation.
Well, that you actually bring up a very good point because it seems like with the emergence of kind of '90s rebellion culture, and then we got into the not decade, it seemed like there was this driving force to have much more vulgar and crass discourse with people, and just not really care about what we say in front of other people. Like there's numerous times where I walk by people who say like, yeah, that fucking shit was goddamn gay. And then like, somebody who is of an adult, but mind you, these are college kids, not really sensible adults right now. But I felt like, wow, maybe 30 years ago, you wouldn't even try to say that in public for fear of, I don't know, sounding like a bum or, somebody who'd kind of be on the lower dregs of society. But now it definitely feels like there's been a push for people to clean up their language, and it's like an internal force because there doesn't seem to be because all the media and all the media that we consume these days, like a lot of the MTV stuff, a lot of the reality TV stuff and movies are just so excessive now. I feel like there's going to be maybe what like happened back in the '70s where the reverse of the '70s almost, where in cinema where now I think people, just because we've all experienced all kind of the negative side, there's nothing really left to do except, go in the opposite direction.
It just seems to happen more with people in either a political or just a entertainment position or status. Just by apologizing with because they're afraid, apologizing ahead of time because they're afraid they're going to be upset certain type of interest group or things like that, and they're always kind of holding back on what they want to talk about. You can't really be honest without offending someone. You always have to be pretty PC. But yeah, that really isn't the case nowadays. Any kind of a public forum. In terms of, I'll give you a lot of examples of that. When I went to the wrestling show this week, the WWE Monday Night Raw.
Nice.
Profanities and alcohol flying all over the place. So
nice.
I've been to enough events, even when I was younger, and that was the time where it wasn't really catering to the young kids, so to speak. And now it's become the opposite of that nowadays. But it's hit and miss. But there's still enough adults that go there and go buck wild during these events. I think I saw it was fun. I always have a blast going to the live events. It definitely enhances the experience of the actual show, because I look back at some of the parts of it, this is not it wasn't that great of a show overall. It had some good parts to it, but being there live, it kind of enhances the overall experience. I haven't been to much or any kind of live concerts or anything, so I don't know how to have experience speaking on that aspect, but wrestling shows like that is genuinely a lot of fun if you've got some friends to watch it with you, and just a barrage of crazy people in the audience.
Was there a live birth of a hand?
Unfortunately, not. We've gone past that. It's become more whether it be a man in a bikini or fart jokes, but.
Yeah, I did see some. I was actually at Buffalo Wild Wings with a buddy of mine on Monday night, and I believe that I was watching Raw or something where a man was dressed up as a woman, and I guess I missed the entire context of it. And yeah, I don't know if it was the guy who does my wardrobe obviously mixed up or something like that. But it's this seems like a pretty good comic relief right here. But I just wish I had the context.
Yeah, you're somewhat correct on the context. I think you were probably watching that. It's the thing with Monday Night Raw and wrestling in general. It's like I like watching it because there's nothing on Monday, so I would just like you know zone out on that for a good. Since they've changed it to 3 hours, so it's you definitely feel that 3 hours sometimes, especially at the live show. Yeah, that was usually when they have the live shows here in Vegas. They usually have the gimmicks of the spinning the roulette, always having some predetermined, obviously, scenario going on with some matches and wrestlers to provide. Well, some wrestlers to provide comedy relief, and others just for match sake.
Mm-hmm.
And that was definitely the case. One of the guys by the name of Lord Tensai, and
Ooh, cool.
they spin the wheel for I think it was some sort of lingerie pillow fight or something. And then he got all upset about it, and then he walked away. And then they spinned it again. And it was some like a dance off. So he had no idea that they changed the whole stipulation. So he went out in a robe and had this whole lingerie on. So that was the comedy relief there. It was funny, but I felt bad for the wrestler because when he debuted not too long ago, I think it was like a year or two ago, he was like a good monster. They were like building him up as this kind of dominant dude, and they just like buried him completely since then. So it's a shame. They handle some wrestlers really really badly and some good, and then it's just I don't know. Maybe I'm the few hardcore fans who.
Are you the jaded, cynical wrestling fan now?
I am most of the time, but it has its hit and misses. Mostly miss, but
You are like wrestling to you is like the History Channel to me, where it's like, oh, so you're instead of like talking about like back in late '90s and early not decades, like okay, you guys were doing nothing but talking about the Civil War and Hitler. So, maybe a change-up would be nice, but now it's just not even close to being history. I mean, what the hell is Ice Road Truckers being historically accurate about? Like, oh, okay, these guys are shipping cargo across ice.
yeah, the History Channel's become a place to kind of host reality shows now. The History Channel 2 is the only one that still got some history related programs. I was actually watching that earlier today because there was really nothing on TV. Go figure. Yeah, over 100 channels is nothing to watch. But I was watching I think it was something about the 24 hours after the Pearl Harbor. So yeah, that was interesting to watch. I always, find it very fascinating those programs about history and just them talking about, major events in U.S. history or even before that whole history stuff. I'm really into it sometimes, but I always forget it. And we learn it again, but it just takes a lot of attention and dedication just to get into those type of programs. But they're good. They're a fun watch.
Yeah, they are, but you have to find them in the off hours of in between the reality TV shows and Pawn Stars. What the hell's Pawn Stars about? Like, okay, maybe tangentially related to history because it's like, oh, you're selling historical stuff, but it's not the focus isn't like on that. There's more historical content in like PBS version of was it Cash in the Attic that they have?
Was it that or the Antiques Roadshow?
Yeah, and they usually like go into it a lot more. And there's like, well, Elvis touched this thing. Elvis Presley, for those of you who don't know, was a famous singer. Like that's the only historical information they usually have. Like, oh well, I gotta get this checked out, and they usually drag that on out for God knows how much longer. And I feel like the TV channels these days, like they originally went from like, okay, we need to corner every single niche that we can, and like Sci-Fi Channel had like nonstop marathons of like Twilight Zone, of like cheesy sci-fi movies from the '80s, or like Mystery Science Theater 3000, or like that's the Sci-Fi Channel is where I got my love of Godzilla from, just because I kept on seeing these old reruns of Godzilla. Like, oh my god, this is freaking awesome! I love it. And then Comedy Central is just kind of like, okay, well, we'll throw whatever we have against the wall, like stand-up comedians, and then and nowadays I think they're kind of I don't know if they're losing focus, but it certainly doesn't feel as contained as they originally were, or as wholesome, really, as they once were. And then History Channel, boy, that just went into a weird direction. But all three of those examples, none of them are as bad as G4, which is just like they're now basically just like video games. What the hell are those?
Yeah, those channels have gone through a lot of change, and some for mediocre best, and others just completely lost touch at what they were about when they first were created. And yeah, that's G4 there. I did see the finale of X Play, and that was interesting. It was mainly
it was just like the hosts like lining up in a row. It's like, we thank you for your many years of service, and they all put a gun to their head and just like fired off the 21 gun salute.
That would have been funny. They had it was mainly a clip show on some of the memorable moments of the entire show history, and
it were like none of them starring like Adam Sessler or like before 2008.
No,
or after 2008.
No, Adam Sessler's was in there. Most of the skits they used to do were on there most of the time. It's not like they were doing the clip show of like 2008 until now. That would have been utter garbage. But it was interesting. It was okay, but they certainly seemed like they put some work into it, which is something that they needed for the past few years. I feel like they never didn't put too much work into the show.
They put a lot of work into the final episode of the show. It's like, okay, guys, looks like we got enough ratings to be renewed. Oh, never mind.
Yeah, they kind of knew it was gonna end that episode, and they were auctioning off some stuff from the show's history, and then they had these. They had some people who played some really significant roles in some of the sketches, like the Canadian guy.
Oh, I love the Canadian guy.
He was there. Then they had some other people, kind of sitting right on the stage, pretending to answer phones and shit, and tapping away on a computer. Those old ass those Apple computers, and it's like wasn't even on. It was just
was just like connected into a toaster.
It was like pretty much to that extent, things like that. But yeah, there it is. I don't know when they're gonna.
Thank God.
Rebrand the channel.
Just because that thing was like a wolf that got hit by a car, and you're just like howling in the night. Somebody needed to put that thing out of its misery, and I hate to see it go, but honestly, I agree. Adam Sessler kind of when he was talking about THQ dissolving, which I wanted to talk to you about as well when we get a moment, but he was saying like, they didn't really know how to market their games, because nowadays you can't really just have a good game. You need to be able to market it too. And with Saints Row the Third, although it did very well, the advertising was a little bit confusing, because it's this kind of crazy game about these like wacky zany adventures and this sort of this crime storyline that's really satirized. It's sort of like a parody of like serious crime stories, and then like you look at the marketing, it looks like very serious and very like, oh, like these guys are down to destroy the city. Or like, no, it's like actually it has almost nothing to do with that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was. It usually comes down to marketing. A good chunk amount of the time, and sometimes just releasing it on a month or where there's nothing out. I think that has been a case for some titles. I think Sleeping Dogs benefited for coming out when it did.
I mean, it was like THQ as a concept on when to market that Ubisoft needs to have, because like they have like the opposites, like the situation where Ubisoft has these big AAA games, and then they never know when to release them, and then with THQ, it's like, okay, they always know when to release them, but they don't really know how to release them or like gear them towards which market.
Right.
And and speaking of THQ, let's talk about that, since last time that after last time we spoke, THQ was kind of being sold off piecemeal, and all the different all the different studios and game franchises have been sold off, and it's been about almost 23 years since THQ is started up, and it's been a big stable market in the industry. Although it hasn't always been the most prominent, it's certainly been it's always been kind of a constant there, because they've done like WCW games, or like licensed games from like Ren and Stimpy and Home Alone and Power Rangers, and of course they took one of the greatest games of all time, 50 Cent, Blood on the Sand, which is just fantastic. They made a really good game out of something that was just so weird. And speaking, and they had this very strange sense of humor about putting out some interesting games like Red Faction or Destroy All Humans or Saints Row, where there's something just a little bit off about their depiction of the universe, where it's like sometimes it'll be it'll usually have like really dark humor to it, and it seems kind of fitting for the universe, but at the same time it's almost supplanting the sense of like, oh, okay, this is supposed to be like a serious story, especially with games like Saints Row and Destroy All Humans, where just like, oh, okay, you're just causing as much chaos as possible.
Yeah, I think one of the probably big things that might have hurt them is that they purchased licenses for games that didn't do really well for them back then. I know they have a couple of licenses for SpongeBob, and that didn't pan out too well for them. They just these kind of out there licenses that they expected to sell but didn't. Things like that. It might probably would one of the reasons why. I remember before this happening, they were planning on actually selling the company to some other company, but I think the higher powers beyond them said no, because I don't think they were even the people that wanted to buy them weren't even financially stable enough to purchase them.
Yeah, it's always been going around, because like every 2 years there'd be some news of a company trying to buy out THQ, because they always walk that fine line of being the publisher that did like their own franchises, but also did a lot of licensed games, and because of that, it always seemed like, oh, they were kind of right in that period of just being like their own original publisher, and being kind of that respectable area, but also doing a lot of these licensed games, which kind of lost favor with a bunch of people, especially their big franchises that they kind of just let go astray, and like not being exactly able to kind of figure out what to do with them, like De Blob, which was apparently, like, I haven't played it, but it was released to really good acclaim, and then they haven't. Then they did The Blob 2, and then they just kind of dropped it and said, forget about it, and then it's they have also just done they've had a really checkered past, especially with the fact that they were the guys who had the hand in the E.T. The extraterrestrial game. So, and also the U-Draw tablets, which did absolutely terrible on the market. But
that probably was the final nail in the coffin for that. I didn't do too well at all. I think it was pretty decent. I don't know. It just didn't sell at all. I think because of the Wii U came out, that's just adds another kind of sign of defeat there. Mm-hmm. Even before it too, so it's not completely because of the Wii U that outshined that kind of a THQ tablet. It was kind of dead in the water to begin with.
Yeah, I mean, unless you're a really established property, I don't think you're going to be cracking into the tablet area anytime soon, video game or otherwise. And THQ is kind of proof of that right now. And yeah, they've sold off a lot of their assets. The South Park, The Stick of Truth that they were publishing for Obsidian, not Oblivion. They sold that off. They sold the Saints Row, Volition Incorporated, and Metro off to Koch Media, Deep Silver, and it's an end of the era. It's an end of an era. I mean, they didn't really do anything surprising, but they at least did. It's so strange nowadays. Like when a publisher doesn't do anything wrong, they're getting rewarded for, in my eyes, like getting rewarded for having good manners. Like they weren't as fervent on DLC. Well, they actually were for Saints Row, but a lot of the practices that Ubisoft and EA and Activision were doing, where you just like day one unlockable stuff. Or like the stuff on the disc that should be unlocked is just locked in there, and you don't get it unless you get an access code, or they didn't do the always on DRM sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know whether it was just like maybe they're behind the curve or they were actually just attentive to what people were saying, but they didn't seem as a zealotous over being able to squeeze every dollar out of the consumer. And I got to give them credit for that. They even supported franchises that they didn't know were gonna be as positively that were in a gray area, like Darksiders, where the first one I think had good critical reception, sold well, but I don't think they thought that it was like, oh, okay, this is going to be like a Grand Theft Auto type of franchise where we're pulling in those big bucks, but they spent the time and money for Darksiders too, and gosh darn it, that was a pretty good game.
Yeah, THQ always struck me as a company that was getting by, wasn't doing too successful or either bad. I think just recently with some of the unwise business decisions was probably kind of the reason, mostly for the downfall. I do enjoy some of the games they released, on current and past generation era of consoles. I really enjoy the WWE Day Reckoning games for the GameCube. Those were exclusive for the GameCube, and it was one of my favorite wrestling games published by THQ. Mm-hmm. And I mean, they seem that they're stepping into the right, the right lane with some of the recent titles, with especially Saints Row. I think was something that was holding them above the water right there with that one.
Saints Row the Third sold really, really well. Although, it's hard to figure out how well it sold because nowadays publishers are not forced to reveal that kind of information to their business associates. Although that is hampering in terms of people who want to invest in the video game industry and don't even know the financial earnings of those games, like the new DMC Devil May Cry game, for instance. Apparently, it's only sold a third of the copies of Devil May Cry 4. I'm not saying that's better or worse artistically, although I myself prefer Devil May Cry DMC more than 4. But I can't research this because there's no, they don't want to release numbers, and that can be either good or bad because they don't. Sometimes if they sell very well, but not like a AAA sort of Halo-esque levels or Metal Gear Solid levels of success, then they're gonna maybe just keep that a little bit quiet because people say, oh, maybe it's a franchise that's waning or or what have you. But then again, you have those moments of like, okay, if you reveal that you sold too low, people are going to say, oh, okay, this is a franchise that's starting to wane a little bit, and yeah, it's too bad. But anyway, whatever case it may be, just Saints Row was a big success, and then THQ was just one of those really weird publishers that they always had good franchises, and they were like right in the middle between being that sort of big conglomerate corporation like EA and Activision, and then that sort of honest publishing that people actually enjoyed, like Steam. It was, or Valve, where they had this kind of nice middle ground. Although, and that came with the benefits and negatives of both. But they found that very interesting niche, and I don't think that there's another publisher out there who does that.
Yeah, they're one of the publishers that they've backed a lot of games that had very interesting ideas and did some things different than most games do. Most of them weren't amazing games by any means, but they at least did something different. Mainly with some of their recent stuff, and it's a shame. I don't know if, I guess apparently the developers of Darksiders are kind of out of a job as of now.
Yeah. It's a oh my god, it's a really weird place right now, just because it's bad for almost every single developer and publisher across the market, and everyone's saying like, oh, everyone needs to start thinking about the next console cycle. And I'm looking at this like, okay, they can't even make okay, I don't know a deep breadth of economics in video games. But I'm pretty sure that if you have companies who aren't doing well now, who are big names, they're probably going to do less well in the next console cycle, especially the fact that they're going to have to bump up production costs, make even more, big, safer games that, people want, hindering the industry as a whole, just because AAA games will not be able to experiment as much, I feel, because, they have, shareholders to appease and want to get kind of the most basic sort of, oh, this will work fairly well with this demographic, instead of saying like, oh, what can we do over here? And I this is a sign of, okay, we need to just stretch out this development cycle as long as possible, so that we're starting to hit a stride now with these really great games coming out, and then we want to, and I'm going off on a tangent right now, but I love doing that, where where people say like, okay, let's do the next thing just because we need fresh ideas. And no, what we need to do is actually work on, because this is the console cycle that overtook, that made video games overtake movies in terms of their revenue as well as their popularity. And if we can, just by saying that, okay, we need to do something else, it isn't enough. You have to justify it. Like, Michael Pachter, who I think he's like the Nostradamus of video game analysts, and by that I mean that he just throws darts at a board and see what sticks, and then if anything even slightly similar in any way happens, then everyone's saying like, oh, he was right. Look at him. Let's look at him and fear his word. But it is not healthy right now. What we need to do is, in my opinion, focus on the indie market, encourage bigger developers to lay down some space for the smaller guys, have a lot more creativity, just boost in there, just because even everyone's getting tired of the AAA games. I mean, 2012 was the year where more people enjoyed as a whole Walking Dead over a Halo game, where it's like, okay, this is just an episodic, intimate point and click adventure game. And then the other thing is like, oh, this is a big space opera filled with the best, some of the best graphics this generation. And then people were siding with the smaller arcade title. And I think that's very telling of the times, that people, what they want is more interesting, smaller games that have just really, really good quality to them. And yeah, while there will always be a place for those big AAA games. There always will be, just like there's always going to be a blockbuster movie out there. Not Blockbuster Store, just because those aren't here anymore, as you can see down the line. Where I was actually talking, another aside. This is like the footnote of a footnote of a footnote, but one of my female friends was talking to me, and we were talking about like, oh, like I was like, oh, Blockbuster's finished, and she goes like, I don't think so, and I said to her, when's the last time you went into a Blockbuster? And she was like, yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, they're far and few between now. I think it's like 300 now, or it used to be 300, something like that.
Uh,
I don't know the exact numbers, but it was like somewhere around that range. I think that's how much there is now. It's probably dwindling.
I'm pretty sure like they've had to like sell off half the stock for like, okay, like one half is movies and the other half is like a burger that they just like got open. And it's like, hey man, I'm gonna go out for lunch. Like, what? Mind the store? Sure. Hey Johnson, yeah, fire up those grills. I'm getting hungry.
Yeah, well, Dish bought them recently.
Uh,
Um, I don't know. I think I mean, I personally don't mind Blockbuster. If there, I remember I used to tell you about how there was one pretty close to where I live, and that he closed that one off a year or two ago. And I'd go there a good amount, a couple times a week, because compared to let's say Netflix, they send you the DVDs. It's probably a couple days or when you get it in the mail. But it's, I don't know. I find it more convenient that way for me because it was near me, just to go grab some either DVDs or games and rent them for a couple of days. I think they did it to themselves. It was just all those strict return rules and things like that. You get fined if you don't return it the minute after it's due and things like that.
yeah, it was it. I think their return policies, their limited selection, and the very fact that they had to keep up a physical store in comparison to Netflix, where they just have the warehouse full of DVDs that they ship out to people, as well as just being able to stream it. I don't know what the older generation who kind of grew up with these mom and pop video stores are going to do. I hope they're going to adapt easily, but then again, it took me about an hour to help out my mom with setting up the Netflix account on I can't remember what it is, like Revo, or it's not a TiVo. It's a sort of like cool little internet device where you can hook it up to the TV, and it automatically detects the Wi-Fi in your house, and it just connects through these different programs. And so that was she's very well adaptable to electronics. But for this was particularly confusing for her, and so I don't know what people who didn't. I mean, and we grew up with Netflix, so this is going to come second nature to us. But I'm wondering, like, what are the 40 plus crowd going to do, or even just the 50 plus crowd who want to watch a movie and don't want to buy it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But anyway, back to THQ.
Variety of factors there. Yeah.
Yeah. But back to THQ. It's sad to see them go, just because they were kind of a big staple mark in the industry, and they had a lot of good franchises under their belt. It's not like they ran everything to the ground. It's not like the Activision with Tony Hawk, where we're just like, oh, let's cram it down their throats until they say like, yeah, we still love it, even after the crappy peripheral stuff and the absolutely horrendous rendition of Tony Hawk HD, which was they did so many things wrong that they should have noticed out of the gate that they did. But anyway, that's neither here or there.
The Tony Hawk game with that peripheral skateboard.
Yeah, Tony Hawk Ride.
Tony Hawk Ride.
Then Tony Hawk came out and said like, oh, these reviewers, they're just being biased because they don't like skateboarding. Like, oh, really? You mean the 18 plus games that they actually gave good scores to you, and now this one is like, oh, now they're just hating on skaters.
Damn IGN.
Yeah, and they also helped introduce the skate with the SK8TE. It's like, Your ass is pushing it when you do stupid stuff. I couldn't stand it when David Fincher did it with Seven, and I don't like it now. You have to. I'm not. You know what? I don't pronounce Seven as his film Seven as Seven. It's Seven and.
I know, yeah.
That's how he spelled it.
Yeah, I guess that's about it for THQ. You made a pretty good point. I never had the thought when it came to THQ how they were milking anything from customers. I think they've been pretty good for the most part with uh,
They did.
not really milking that much out of customers with day one DLC and online passes. They had their fair share of online passes stuff, but that's kind of mostly the trend these days. But nothing too out there. It's just I think it just came down to just couple of mistakes in terms of investing in things.
Yeah, I mean, at least they weren't like Midway, who just like, oh, hey, it's a new game. Let's make an entirely new engine just for this one game that we'll never reuse for anything else. Like, when you have Stranglehold and Area 51 use completely different engines within the same year, you're gonna see a dip in your financial bank right over there.
Yeah. So I wanted to ask if you remembered, I guess prior to this current console generation, what were some of I can barely remember some of the the talks and discussions people are having, but what were the sort of similar to what we're saying now with what we're maybe probably gonna see for another type of console cycle where we were discussing how it was going to increase development costs and things like that. Was that sort of the similar discussions being had for this console generation retrospectively?
Do you mean like are we going to be facing a transition like we had from the GameCube, Xbox, PS2 era into the current console cycle era?
Yeah, that's what I meant.
From all points, what's vastly different between now and then is the introduction of the internet really into playing video games. Like PC aside, with the console cycle, like you had Xbox Live, which really pioneered the industry of console online, the console online market, because that wasn't really a big thing really on the consoles until Xbox sort of perfected it for that cycle. And then this cycle, the introduction of downloadable content, keeping games that have longevity as well as direct downloads to classic games as well as indie games and arcade games. Those have really changed the nature of how long you could put this console cycle out. Like usually it was like, okay, these graphics look good, but we can go farther. And then it was kind of agreed across the board, like, okay, there's nothing else that we can really do with this except maybe artistic flourishes. Let's go to the next one. But now we're kind of hitting a plateau where photorealism is becoming more and more possible. So I'm seeing maybe one or two more console cycles before it looks near damn identical to real life, because you have the Crysis 3 that looks really good, Halo 4, the CG cutscenes that they use, which aren't too far off of what the gameplay looks like. The CG cutscenes that they use, there are points where I thought that they actually just hired actors, like the opening intro sequence, where I was flabbergasted just how beautiful that looked and how it the hair looked like actual hair instead of just like these how you get pasta just right out of the kind of little bag that you get, and like it's all stiff, and you try to move it around, it's like it just sort of clangs together. Like that was what hair was like back in the N64 and still the GameCube era, where it's like, okay, hair does not really look that good, but nowadays it's getting better. And I think once again, this is another side, but all of that aside,
sure,
it doesn't. There's almost a universal agreement by people who aren't financially invested in seeing what games come. Like a lot of the business analysts are the ones who are really pushing this. Like there's been not a peep out of Sony or Microsoft. Like, oh yeah, we've really hit our stride, but we can't wait to get into the next generation. Or from any of the developers saying like, oh yeah, we definitely need to get a new development kit. For whatever we have next. It's just been like, okay, we're really happy with the products that we're making right now, and I have a pretty. I would pretty much bet on nobody who's actually making games wants the next console cycle. So this might be the first case of developers maybe just sticking with the consoles, this current console cycle, when the next one comes up, because it's going to be even more expensive for these AAA games to come out, and I frankly don't think that developers are going to risk doing that, just of putting more money into these bigger risks. And it's a strange thing. It's like, okay, they're going to put more money into these, bigger budgeted games, and they're probably going to go with franchise games because they don't want to, have an untested property. And then, with that, people are probably tired right now of big franchises that have been sticking around for a long time, which is why, Ubisoft said like, oh, we're putting Prince of Persia away for now, and we'll save it for later. And it just feels like, okay, we need to see some new IPs. Like, I don't even mean new innovations. Nothing like, oh, this totally changes games forever. This like, no, we just need to see some new blood in the water. Like,
don't tell Nintendo that.
I'm sorry.
Don't tell Nintendo that.
Iwata and Miyamoto will not be told until absolutely necessary. Because damn it, I want Pikmin 3. But like at least like they want people to, and that was the thing with Ubisoft with Prince of Persia, where it's okay, we need to set these franchises down for a while and make people miss them before bringing them back. Or I think Nintendo is kind of that rare exception where almost everything that they've done first party has been spectacular. Like there hasn't been a single console Mario centered game, and I mean like kart racing or Sonic and Mario at the Olympics, but I mean like down to earth Mario platforming games, because they just do such a great job with them. And yet I don't think there's really this need, because there's so much risk involved, and there's not as much reward as there was last time by upgrading to the next cycle.
Yeah.
But how do you feel?
Well said, sir. Yeah, I'm probably in the same boat as you. But even if they were going to go all out with the newer console, I'd prefer them to mainly tweak the issues that we've had or are still going through with some of the stuff for the consoles with the Xbox. And when that originally launched with the whole Red Rings thing, that I'd rather just have a better hardware at the moment. I mean, and still keep things relatively the way they are, and maybe applying some new ideas, game mechanics wise, without worrying too much about how a game looks rather than how a game plays.
Yeah,
get rid of the Microsoft points too.
Yeah, the Disney dollars, they've got to go. Because it's one of those things where it's like, okay, just the microtransactions of giving you this weird sort of, I don't even know what would inspire them to do it. It's like, okay, so you're giving us real money, we're giving you fake points, but why not just eliminate the middleman? Just like, okay, we'll just pay this with money, and then it's just weird.
Yeah, I mean, I recently went into that whole this rant, or maybe just a discussion on it recently, where I was buying DLC for WWE 13, which each wrestler costs about like 99 cents, at $1 at the highest, and you just can't purchase that alone. That just dollar in and of itself. You have to get the lowest common points package, which is 800 Microsoft points. That's like $4.99 around there, and that you end up paying more than you wanted to. It just seems counterintuitive and redundant. That's just my whole issue on it. But
And you know what's strange is that it's selective in terms of what needs Microsoft dollars, not because they'll be like arcade games, they'll cost Microsoft points, but then there'll be games on games on demand, which will be like $15. I don't understand. Like, why don't you just like have dollars period and not have to do this roundabout system? It's not like you made a deal with. It would be different if it was like, okay, Microsoft did this deal with Ubisoft, and now they're Ubisoft dollars, and you got to pay for Ubisoft dollars, pay for the games. Like, no, it's just Microsoft, and I don't understand what's up.
yeah, they do that with the games on demand stuff. They don't. Microsoft just doesn't do this for Xbox. They do it on the Zune marketplace, and you see how that's going. They do that as well with the whole Microsoft points transaction on Zune.
Zune's future, boys.
That's why iTunes is better, or because you could purchase individual songs or the entire album with just cash instead of your measly space bucks or neo shekels. I actually will pay neo shekels instead.
I would pay, like, if they changed their currency to Charles Barkley's, I'd be more than happy to shell out some money for that.
5 neo shekels, you got it.
That will be 2 hoops and a Michael Jordan. All right. Let me just. Can you can you break a LeBron James?
Yeah, you could. Yeah, it's just I think most people would say that we agree with us on that with the Microsoft points, but not you don't hear too much complaining on. As much as you do with, Mass Effect 3 ending. You don't hear people talking about, blasphemy, Microsoft points. I paid $3 extra than I wanted to, and I have to buy other DLC or some stupid avatar skin to make it worth the while instead of just keeping those leftover points. It's like, what are you going to buy with 80 points? You can't get nothing with that except those avatar things.
You sell shiny nickel, boys.
It's just weird. You can make that argument with just real stuff, like buying chips.
Yeah,
I gotta buy the store's currency to buy these chips. That doesn't make sense.
Oh, it doesn't. But just hopping right back on over to our other discussion about innovation in video games. This has been the console cycle that has championed more independent games in terms of them being brought to the mainstream. Not as much as I would like, mind you. Like, I still think that the indie market is criminally, on the Xbox Live marketplace, is criminally underused. But referring to, a lot of indie games.
Are you talking about the really indie stuff?
Yeah, like
the Minecraft clones?
That those don't exactly deserve praise, but like I made a game with zombies in it, like that's a huge success. Developed by a very small team. I think it just could have been one guy, and then you have Dust being developed by one person. Double Fine really making a comeback with these smaller games. You have Telltale reaching huge popularity with The Walking Dead, and you have these really weird games that coming out that a lot of people love, like Hotline Miami, which was this huge game that people started to love just because of word of mouth and it getting around on the interwebs, and then it just trickling down, and and then there's this the hushed whispers of Steam coming out with their own device to compete with the big guys, and I think that probably is going to be the biggest console of the next cycle, just because here we have a company who treats their customers with respect. They constantly reward you financially for everything you do. There's always great sales. There's going to be infinitely more games available just because of the fact that developers love Steam. And these other guys have kind of screwed over their other guys in terms of just what to do and how they sell their games. And it's, especially with the indie market, where it's really put out in terms of how much notoriety it gets, because like originally indie market on the Xbox game marketplace was pretty big, and then it got pushed back more and more, and now now you got to struggle to find it.
Oh yeah, I think the recent dashboard update is a little bit better than before. At least you could do that search feature and just type in, I guess, the thing you're looking for. But if it's something that uh, you don't have a have a name to it, and you're just kind of perusing, I think it's, I don't know. For me, I don't have too much trouble finding things on there as much as I did prior, but it was neither here or there. It's hit and miss sometimes.
Yeah, it's a bit of a weird creature, especially. And don't get me started on the fact that I'm paying for Xbox Live Gold membership, and then we have these ads, and they're taking away more programs and not offering incentives to keep on going, and which is something PlayStation Plus has been doing. And damn it, I wish Xbox Live would rip that off. I mean, God knows that Sony ripped off everything else about their about their console this generation. So why not have Xbox do one thing like that?
Well, Microsoft's got to pay the bills, man. They're poor. They're a small little company.
Yeah, yeah. They're getting bullied at school. They're getting their lunch money stolen by the big guy down the street.
Yeah, they're the kids that get bullied every day by Scott Farkas.
Biff Tannen. Hello, you in there, Microsoft?
Biff Tannen. Perfect.
Mm-hmm. And let me let me peruse. Oh, by the way, can I say something that's this is we go from really happy stuff and we'll jump right back onto that. But here's something that made me absolutely pissed off beyond belief. Now, recent shootings at Sandy Hook Elementary, which is just still a tragedy, and my heart still goes out to all the families who have lost loved ones there. And I've just been pissed as hell about how politicians have used this as a springboard off for their own political beliefs and ideologies, and just really just exploiting it for their own gain. And but this one just takes the goddamn cake. U.S. Senator Lamar Alexander has said that, okay, and this is the quote: "I think video games is a bigger problem than guns because video games affects people." And it's affects with an A, not an E. But the First Amendment limits what we can do about video games, and Second Amendment of to the Constitution limits what we can do about guns. I want everybody within the sound of my voice to realize that this man, somebody we've elected into office to represent the senatorial position that he's been bequeathed, thinks that video games are a bigger problem in violence than guns. The things that are designed to kill people are less of a problem than something that is made of pure fiction and has no real world effect.
Mind control.
But if you're just looking at it like maybe if you were just playing like Harbinger, the game, where he's like assuming direct control and then just made you do shit, that was one thing. This guy, this motherfucker right here, this yellow-bellied rat who thinks that he can just say this shit and get away with it, like Yeland Lee, who's like, oh, video game players don't really have a say in the conversation because they're looking out for their own interest. Oh, by the way, let's get that a little bit later because I'm pissed about that for another reason. This guy is just video games pose a threat than a firearm. Just fuck you. You are a 6-year-old could make a better argument than this guy. And it's ridiculous. And then Yi Lindley, who I I do not like for many reasons. But he's directly quoted by saying that video game players don't have a say in the conversation because they're looking out for their own interest, and it's all financial, and the industry as well. So you're saying, Yeland, if I can get this right, Mr. Lee, if you want, that reason why we're being uppity is because, and the reason why we can't say anything about this debate of violence in video games is because we are actually interested in having a say in it because we enjoy the medium. You are a communist of the mind. No, I'm sorry. Communism actually has an ideology. You're just an asshole.
Mm-hmm.
And then like, okay, he got a shitstorm of emails after that, and so he didn't even release an apology statement, like saying like, oh, I spoke out of turn. He had his secretary release a statement. He's like, oh, Mr. Lee didn't mean it like that. Like he was just his passion. Like, oh, why the fuck are you talking for him? Let the bastard get on up and say it himself.
Yeah, they always do that. Always avoiding confrontation, never sticking up to what they say, whether you agree with it or not.
Yeah. Let's let Mr. Lee just go out to Afghanistan to protect our troops and lead them in a firefight, because he'll always avoid any confrontation that he can find.
Politicians, man.
All a motherfrickin' but hey, let's turn to a much happier subject. I've got nothing.
What is that? Oh, okay.
Stop for time. Oh, have you played the Metal Gear Rising demo?
No, I haven't. I was looking for it on Xbox Live, the demo section, but I don't think that they put that out for free customers. I think they wait a week or something. Usually the gold members get that a bit earlier than the basic free members, which I am a part of. So I haven't gotten the chance to play that or the Dead Space 3 demo, but I did get to play the XCOM demo.
Nice.
I really liked it. It was, I think I was just looking for something to play that was different, and I have played turn-based games before, and then I initially wasn't too fond of them, but this one seems to add something new to that genre, and having its kind of appeal for a more kind of broader audience than the hardcore turn-based players. It seems good. I enjoyed the demo quite a bit. You find aliens, you're not fighting zombies or anything, or yeah, that was a surprise. So I'm actually looking forward to play that. I recently purchased that on eBay, so hopefully I get a crack at it later this week. So we'll see what happens. And have been playing some Max Payne 2 for my YouTube channel, doing a let's play of that. I usually play that game once a year, so it's sort of the few games that I like to play on certain occasions, and that was one that I actually wanted to go back to and play that for the YouTubes. I quite enjoy that one for its the noir story and all the goodness that comes with shooting dudes in slow motion. It's going good. It's taken me.
I haven't seen those videos yet, so I'll go check those out.
Yes, you got plenty to watch there, good pal. We got like 5 parts up there so far, and it's good. It's worth checking out if you haven't played the Max Payne 2. I think you get a kick out of it. It's it certainly has that Remedy touch to it. It always have their nice good attention to detail and those kind of funny comedic relief moments with other kind of NPC characters. It reminds me a lot of what IO does with the Hitman, where they have these kind of NPC characters just kind of talking about things, and has that dialogue that's written really well and reminds you of things that's taken out of Pulp Fiction. That kind of quality of dialogue, just listening to them talk about nothing. It kind of reminds me of that, which is good stuff. Hence,
Are they talking about just cheeseburgers and?
yeah, it's just random things that is pretty comedic. I know there's one part in the when you're kind of allowed to kind of look around and see what's there to do and what people are doing in the police station. It's that there's some pretty cool interactive moments with some NPCs where two of them are watching TV. I think it's some sort of soap opera, and you can turn off the TV, and then they get all pissed because they turn it off and they turn it back on. And if you get in front of the TV, they have a response, and there's I think there's a heater next to them, and if you it says it has a sign, like a post-it note on it that says "Do not turn on," and then you turn it on, and it's just they get all upset about it, and somebody else downstairs from that room starts to mention, "Is it hot in here? It's like winter. Why is it hot in here? We mess with the air conditioner." That's just those little touches is really good.
Uh,
And I mean, the game holds up pretty well, actually. Yeah, I think it still does. If anyone were to play it now on the PC, I think the PC versions of the first two Max Payne games seem pretty ideal. I think they were made for that, and I don't know how well they play on like Xbox or PS2 and things like that. But yeah, it's very beneficial for the PC because you can quick save and quick load because you end up dying a lot in those games. So it's all about trial and error.
I gotcha. Max Payne always, like 1 and 2 at the very least, always seemed like rock solid games with great presentation that really do stand the test of time. And I don't think I'll be saying that with Max Payne 3.
Max Payne 3.
I thought I enjoyed it primarily, but then when I was looking back at it, it's like, oh wow, the gameplay doesn't really excel at all. Like at least with Stranglehold, you could update your weaponry and and your abilities, like that cool 360 kill everybody in the room sort of ratio. But with Max Payne 3, although I like the presentation and the Tony Scott Man on Fire alcoholics breaking the aesthetic of the video game presentation itself, it didn't really stack up to what I was hoping for. But the best parts of that game are when Max Payne is in New York.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's what most people that are really the purists of Max Payne had a sort of a problem with the third one because they wasn't in New York as much as they wanted to. But it was which I can understand where they're coming from, but it's different developers, so you're gonna expect they're gonna be doing something slightly different, not kind of emulating what Remedy has done. I think they, for the most part, were pretty loyal to the character and other things. They changed small things, but never really reference any of the previous titles that heavily. But it's a good standalone thing. But I can see where you're coming from. I've had that feeling about other games as well. That I just initially I did like them, and then they didn't hold up that well for me after much thought. So I don't know. I'd say give checking out the Max Payne 2 Let's Plays I'm doing. I think you might dig that more. It's very noirish than the third one.
Mm-hmm.
I think you might dig it a lot. It's set in New York a lot, so it's very presentation wise is really good.
That's fine with me, just because I think with Remedy's writing, I think that works much because there are a lot more. At least when I was playing Alan Wake and American Nightmare, their writing seems to be a lot more even-handed, where it's not as they can go dark, but they can also go light, and they do make characters that you can really identify with and fall in love with. But what I did not like in terms of the writing of Max Payne 3 was like, okay, this is Dan Houser traditional writing with the it's rock star writing a lot of times, where the best example of it is just Grand Theft Auto 4, where every single character I hated just because there are these either blank, vacant characters who are just so self-obsessed that you couldn't really enjoy them on any level except as like, oh, aren't these people stupid? and then like the only other time, and then the protagonists are just so overly cynical about everything and nihilistic that you can't really get to know them as people just because they have this barrier of like, oh, everything is shit. There's nothing good in the world, and it's hard to actually be enamored with a character, or even find any sympathy when they're so negative about everything. And in
I hear
one
you.
examples of them not doing that is Red Dead Redemption, where they do have a lot of those characters, but then there are characters who are genuinely good, and John Marston, who's just, he is he's a little bit cynical about life, but he's also surprisingly optimistic. And that's what I don't, I thought that, like, okay, maybe Dan Houser and company would be able to kind of buck up and do a noir story like Max Payne 3. Just like they could have done the inverse, where it was like, oh, okay, it's this guy who just becomes this overly cynical, violent, a psychopath, and then like he starts to actually to rediscover his humanity and become a better person. And they kind of try to do that, but it doesn't really work that well.
Yeah, I think that's just more the case of them taking the core idea of Max Payne and kind of adding their own flavor to it, that Rockstar flavor with it in terms of writing. But I can see where you're coming from on that. I still quite enjoyed it as looking back on it. I haven't played it recently. I've only like played it once, but it's fine in my opinion. But I liked them for the most part because it was pretty. I like what they could do in a kind of linear wise. A lot of the levels were really well detailed and
Mm-hmm.
for a linear game. So
I do like that about linear experiences. Like, for instance, I'm replaying Metro 2033 a little bit, and why I prefer it over Fallout is because they have a little bit more focus to it, which means that they can get a lot more polish in everything than just kind of having this big sprawling open world that, while it's cool that all this freedom's there and all these different missions, everything kind of runs together and looks the same. There's nothing really standoutish about about the experience, and like, oh, okay, this was cool, this is cool. The character designs are, they look all the same, and the locations look all the same, and the voice acting is good on occasion. Like Liam Neeson, he's always good. He's always good. But everyone else is just like, oh, I don't really notice anything really special.
hmm. Yeah, I don't know. We always go through that phase where we have a slightly different opinion on games after a while.
If we didn't, then it would just be a really boring show.
Yeah, of course. So yeah, I mean, yeah, I'd recommend that. I'm not saying that just to promote the YouTube channel, but I recommend give it a couple of parts that I've played of Max Payne 2 a shot. I think it's still a really good game in my humble opinion. I mean, I've played it like so many times, so it's got to be saying something about it.
Yeah. So I'm definitely gonna check it out, and since you've been giving it such high praise, I will be looking at it myself. I am not able to buy it just because I think as I saw through Steam and Good Old Games, it's only available on the PC right now. I'm not sure if it's on Games on Demand for Xbox.
Last I checked, I think it is on Games on Demand. Yeah, I don't think there's a Mac version of it for either the first or second one, but I do know that it's on the Games on Demand. I remember looking at it a while back. So I don't know how well it is on the console version. I can only attest to the PC version, which is pretty good. With having it being a slightly older game that came out in 2003 or something like that, I can run it on the high settings and things like that, which is makes the game more good to look at. And yeah, I mean the models, they're not up to par to the things we have now, but they hold up well. They don't take you really out of the whole experience of it. Like the first one, it was very very silly. You could tell that it was just it was a budget game, and they did what they could with it, and they seemed that they cared about their product a lot, and just putting in the people that worked at Remedy in the game, which is pretty funny. Added their own kind of quirkiness to it. Having the lead writer of the game as Max Payne, and then once they got purchased by Take Two, it seemed like with Max Payne 2, that's what they wanted to do with the first one, but didn't have the means to having actors for the character models and things like that. But
well, I mean, going right back to what you were saying about Max Payne 2, in that it still holds up because the presentation it looks good. I think that the only console cycle that really shows its that kind of has that weird, it shows its age, and no matter how interesting the presentation style was for then, it still really is kind of jarring, is probably the N64, PlayStation 1, Sega Dreamcast era, just because there's really jagged polygons, and then the really limited draw distance, and even like the at that time the beautiful stuff like Legend of Zelda, Ocarina of Time, or Mario 64. There's always this like feeling like, oh, this is a really cool looking game, but everything just looks so jagged. It's like that weird area of transitioning in the 32-bit right into kind of the not decade, where it's like, oh, okay, they're still trying to find their footing, and and like the reason why I think Metal Gear Solid 2 holds up so well, even though it was released back in 2001, is because of had a really good presentation style, where it's this hyper realistic kind of meets anime sort of look to it, and it does very well.
Yeah, it's hard to say for PS1 titles because they're like in the middle of the road of like close to the modern 3D stuff, and then still in the past of just really bad polygon looking characters that I guess depending on the game, it's hard to
characters have more points than a porcupine.
It's hard to get back to, yeah.
And change is good, but sometimes change is also a little bit questionable. Because one of the games that I was looking at, looking over the news topics, is Injustice: Gods Among Us, and for those of you who don't know, it's a video game developed by NetherRealm Studios, who do the Mortal Kombat games, and it stars all the DC comic book superheroes like Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, Flash, Green Lantern, and I have a lot of faith in the guys, just because okay, I love Mortal Kombat 9, just how ridiculously over the top it is, and I don't even mean in the traditional sense like, oh wow, I can't believe they put it in there. It's the story mode is like, okay, it seems like this kind of cheesy, oh, we're gonna save the world and we're gonna do it looking ludicrous and crazy. And then at the end, it pulls the rug right out of under you. It's like, oh, wow, this is actually a really depressing ending.
Yeah, that story mode was surprisingly pretty entertaining. While you can debate whether it was of quality, but it was a lot better than what I've seen in other interpretations of Mortal Kombat. At least they made Johnny Cage more of a badass in this one. He didn't get killed off right away like in the second Mortal Kombat movie or anything.
Basically, it's like, by the way, this guy looks nothing like Johnny Cage from the last game, and you guys should probably feel a little bit of ashamed. But what I do love is also the fact that Johnny has his first name tattooed to his stomach and his last name on his belt buckle. It's like, okay, this guy is so just self-centered that it's reaching. Like, he's basically Johnny Bravo if they could choose like a video game character to bring in. And what I do like is that they kind of have this. For those of you who've seen Band of Brothers, they're able to do these really interesting things because every episode is like, okay, it focuses on one character, but it also deals with the entire group at the same time. And there's one that specifically that I remember, it was all about the Soldier of Blythe. And then like while he was kind of dealing with being in war, and then it seamlessly goes back and forth between his story and the groups. And that's kind of what I felt for Mortal Kombat, where it's like, okay, you would have these chapters of like it would go from like Johnny Cage getting introduced to the island and getting introduced to everybody, and then it would like seamlessly transition to Sonya's story, and it did that really really well, and you got the entire roster of characters, and it was really well done, and I just got to applaud them for that, and that's why I'm just hoping God's Injustice Gods Among Us will do. But what I'm a little bit hesitant on is something that's kind of been a sort of a staple mark of this generation of media, where it's everything needs to be darker and everything needs to be a lot more serious and have a lot more gravitas. And apparently there's in the opening story of Injustice, Metropolis is destroyed and millions are dead at the hands of the Joker, and and apparently it also shows like Superman beating the crap out of Joker, and maybe killing him. Who knows? And it's just so strange.
Hmm.
I mean, the game looks great, but I don't know if I want this kind of R-rated superhero story in like with these kind of traditional characters who are always good, and especially the Superman becoming violent, because his staple mark of this character is like, okay, I am stoic, I am brave, I will always do the right thing no matter what. And this seems just sort of, I don't know, questionable. I don't know. I'm not even knocking it against the game. Maybe they'll do something else. Maybe I'll love it. Maybe the story direction they'll go, but I don't know.
I don't know. We'll see. I don't. They think they go as far as completely changing the characters, moral beliefs or motivations or anything. But it seems I'm the more I hear about it, I'm sort of looking forward to it, because I do like some of the DC characters, and it's got a lot of potential, and I'm sure it'll do well in that whole fighting game circuit. And we'll see. I did like Mortal Kombat a lot. It's one of the few fighting games that I really got into that wasn't completely that left me baffled. How the hell do I do this combo? How do I even punch? So we'll see. I mean, I know that's been. I hear what you're saying when there's been this kind of dark tone to these type of superhero movies, and it's kind of a nice breath of fresh air that they put out movies that are kind of the opposite of that, more upbeat and not so serious type of things. But we'll see. We'll see what happens. I do like the dark stuff too, but we gotta get Dr. Manhattan as DLC.
Where he's just blowing people up left and right in his black speedo and just having existential crises around the like character select menu, or even better yet, that's just like when you start like, okay, player 1 chooses Superman, player 2 chooses Dr. Manhattan. He's like they start the game. He's like, I'm tired of these games, of these violence here on this world, and then he's like disappears onto Mars. Like, I guess Superman wins.
That'd be the best win ever. Well, I think Watchmen is technically owned by DC, so they could probably do that.
Yeah,
add that in there. They did that. They did add a Freddy Krueger in Mortal Kombat and Kratos, so maybe they'll throw in some of the Watchmen characters as DLC. That'd be actually pretty awesome.
That'd be great. I mean, they put in Constantine into the DC universe, so I don't understand why we can't have like Rorschach, like calling Wonder Woman a whore for how she dresses, or Night Owl just worrying about his impotency while he's like getting the crap beaten out of him by the Flash. Like it Yeah, that would be great to kind of just like get your kind of expanded universe stuff in there. Like maybe next Marvel versus Capcom will have like Kick-Ass as one of the characters.
Hmm. I don't know. They could be some potential in the story aspect of Injustice. Maybe I'm too optimistic about it, but I certainly there's certainly some areas of exploration to take with some of those characters where they test their kind of moral limits. I think much like the Dark Knight Returns, that there are some really good moments, with testing Batman's all kind of moral uh, his all morality, and then his own kind of the strict set of rules he has, and it's all of that is kind of put into question whether he should kill the Joker or not, and what does it mean if he does it, if he doesn't, things like that. Just leave you questioning those type of things, like testing the limits of their own kind of their own moral rules and things like that.
Yeah, it is. I got Dark Knight Returns from my brother-in-law, and I've never been a huge Batman fan, so like whenever it's like, oh, gotta read Dark Knight Returns, like yeah, whatever, I'll get around to it eventually. But it is yeah, I love the hell out of that story. It was great, and if they make it like that, like this is just like I think they are establishing that this is kind of its own universe. But if they make it sort of like that, where it's like, okay, everyone's being pushed their limits and their own morality, and that would be fantastic. I'd love to see that.
Yeah, that's what I really loved about Dark Knight Returns, and recently they put out those animated films of adapting that graphic novel, and I think that's part one and two of it. And I've seen those, and I think they're pretty well done for the most part.
I have not seen them. How do they compare to the actual book?
Uh, it's been a while since I read the book, but from what I recall, it seems pretty faithful to the graphic novels. I could be mistaken, but even if it wasn't completely exactly like it, but I thought it still kept mainly the tones and main plot points to it. So I enjoyed the hell out of it. It was pretty good. It would have been better if they put it out all together, but I guess I don't know, for some reason they put them out in two parts. So you have to. Each one was like an hour and a half, so they were pretty lengthy ones for Warner Brother animated films.
Yeah, well, I mean, if they released it all together, it'd probably be like 4 hours.
Probably like probably 2.5, 3 hours probably. So that's probably why they broke them up in two parts. So it's pretty dense graphic novel, much like the Watchmen stuff that they got put out, like all that when they put out the whole kind of collectors or whatever edition where they have they have everything in like one package. So you're just gonna be waste 5 hours of your day watching the whole Watchmen experience, the whole shebang. Yeah. So yeah, Peter Weller is the voice of Batman. So that was good.
It's the Buckaroo Banzai?
Peter Weller, he was Buckaroo Banzai.
Yeah, I hope I'm getting that right. Yeah, Peter Wellers, I think.
A RoboCop fame, or I missed it. I made it.
Yep.
Yes.
I do believe that is the one and the same man.
I'm only familiar with his RoboCop work, so yes.
Nice. Well, I will definitely wait for the extended director's fantastical uh, Dark Knight scowling. Don't you swear in front of me, kid? Edition that they have there, and I'll wait for that to come on around and just enjoy that.
Yes, worth checking out.
And, I don't really have any more news on this end. Do you have any on over yonder?
Well, I was looking through some of the information being put out for Splinter Cell Blacklist, and it seems to me that there's going to be uh, more options than the past games in terms of your play style. I've read that they're a good 95% of the game you could play without killing anybody. But there, obviously there's some story elements that are in there that you're gonna have to kill somebody. So which is pretty good, pretty interesting. That they seem to be incorporating multiple play styles, and it seems that they more than the past game Conviction that they're going to be allow you to play it either stealthy or action or both. So,
and what you're saying that 95 you can play 95% of the game without having to kill anyone. That's actually very similar to Chaos Theory, where there were occasions where you could go by an entire level but not kill anybody. But there were definitely missions where it's like, okay, no, you have to kill this person. They're bad. You got to get rid of them.
Mm-hmm. That's what I liked about those, that you had the option to just kind of sneak past them or kind of knock them out.
Yeah.
If they got in your way, because if I'm not the best at stealth, so I'm gonna just sticky shot these guys so I can get past them and then just avoid any gunfire.
Or just try to, or just run up to them, even though they're trying to shoot you, just get the very bottom of your very bottom of your palm and just shove it right into their nose. It's I got you. It was worth taking 6 bullets to actually do that.
Yeah, that was an interesting endeavor. So I'm looking forward a bit more to Blacklist, and I guess in terms of its gameplay. I know we've gone on discussions about its continuity and storyline, but and I'm willing to give it a shot. So, more about its gameplay. I'm really looking forward to that. You able to do that, sneak past, or shoot your way through situations, and just the multiple amount of things they've added with running and shooting at the same time. That was it the mark for it. Was it Mark to Kill feature? So it's more kind of fluid and dynamic. That tweak that was been tweaked, and I don't know if there's co-op in that, or if they're going to have a co-op campaign, but that would be pretty cool. Maybe depending on if it'll work, do some of that multiplayer that they did with the past games. I did quite enjoy the Spy Mercenary for Pandora Tomorrow and Chaos Theory. Those are fun. And it's going to have an economy system as well, incorporated for the single player and multiplayer.
Microtransaction sort of stuff.
Not sure about that, but it's gonna, you play the game, you earn the cash, and you can upgrade your items and guns and things like that, depending on your play style. That's pretty cool. And I think one of the directors for that was talking about how he would like to have the game not have a main menu, so have it just start off and you can move around in certain areas, I guess, of your home base, and start off the campaign or multiplayer off of I think separate terminals. That'd be kind of an interesting way to go about it. The main menus.
That would be great. Just to go in cold and then just start it on up, and that would be fantastic.
So we'll see when it comes out later this year. I forgot what exactly the date is on that. I think around August, something like that. And I believe it was yesterday, Disney said that the Junction Point Studios got closed down.
Yeah.
Made most notably for the Disney Epic Mickey and Mickey 2, Epic Mickey 2, which didn't do too hot.
Nope, didn't do too well with the second game. The first game was kind of a critical darling, and he was like, "Oh, this is really cool. The interesting mechanics." There's obviously some bugs and camera issues, but
they seem to seem the same thing, prevalent in the sequel, from what I've heard.
Or it's not as cool this time around, just because it's not with with kind of a controller type setup where they had this where you can just kind of point at the screen and then like change it. Like if it was done for the Wii or the Move, like then that would make sense. But this the next time around was apparently just not as cool and fluid, and just not as much of a good time.
Oh, that's a shame.
Damn shame.
Shame. Surprising they didn't do that. They're great. It's sort of the Disney property and things like that. I don't know. Maybe it wasn't. I guess it's a tribute to both of that. The gameplay and the marketing, probably. I didn't hear too much or see too much ads on that game.
No, but I don't think while Disney has lent itself out for licensing its products, like most famously the Goof Troop game. But I don't think they themselves are really competent in terms of really understanding the market now and advertising. Because I think it's still stuck in the mentality of, oh, we're Disney, we'll slap our name on anything, and there will be people who will way around the corner for it. Which is why I think they did that with their movies now these days, like with Prince of Persia and Tron Legacy and the three Pirate sequels. They're still stuck in that mode of like, oh, we're Disney, we don't really have to compete, we just need to slap our name on it, and just anybody will buy it if it just looks like it's expensive and it's got our name on it.
Bastards.
That cash grabbing rat.
Yeah, apparently the Epic Mickey only sold 270,000 copies. So, before the end of 2012. Not good. It's a shame that another developer got shut down. Was more a shame that Binary Domain didn't sell well. I'm telling you.
Yeah, well, hey, if Deadly Premonition's getting its director's cut, maybe who knows? Maybe Binary Domain will get one too.
Oh yeah, I gotta bring that up. The director's cut is coming on around, I think, around the end of April for the PS3 only, which is a shame. I'd like to see what sort of improvements and slight changes were made to that compared to the 360 version. The only kind of issues I had was like this. I wonder if they've tweaked the sound, because the sound mixing was, that sometimes was a bane, which is why they intentionally left in the subtitles. Like, you didn't have the option to turn them on or off, because there would be times with the music playing you can barely hear some of the dialogue.
Looks like there's been a murder. Like that's just great. It's one of those games where it's like, this is so awesome. I love this. It's honestly just one of those games that just, it takes you by surprise and it wheedles its way into your heart and just never lets go. Much like a stroke.
As its charm.
Yes, it does. Except strokes do not leave you with cool quotes or psychological analyses of Tom and Jerry.
I know. Just that beginning right there sets up for everything you're going to be expecting.
Mr. Stewart.
Mr. Stewart, yeah. God, man, that's a game where you can get a lot out of each character in the town and really immerse yourself into it just by doing those side quests. Like, some of them don't, they don't have effect on the story, but you really learn more about these characters and you feel like this is like a real town and things like that. You get the extra sense of immersion and commitment with all of these characters. And it was interesting because when I replayed it like a year ago, that you could talk to some of the people in town before that big that scene in the community center.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was cool because originally, if you don't talk to any of them, you can meet. You have this dialogue conversation of, hey, my name is Francis York Morgan, and all that spiel. And then if you did talk to them before, they'd say, "Hey, Mr. Morgan, how you doing?" It's like that they already kind of know you, and they already kind of established a relationship with them. It's just pretty cool.
Speaking of that, it like games like that, Deadly Premonition, Enslaved, Majin, like all these little games that wouldn't have really gotten a second glance in the past generation. In this generation, we're starting to get review sites that are very adamant on advertising games that maybe didn't get their fair shake, or ones that like are hype up big games that looking forward to that would kind of go under the radar, like Anarchy Reigns, which was reviewed well on Destructoid, and it's only $30. And so I think they're also trying to and also something that some outlets are starting to do that I would really love to see be supported almost everywhere else, is a different price structure. Where like for instance, the game Enslaved: Odyssey to the West, I love that game, but it was never going to sell well at a $60 price tag right out of the gate.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that mainly because it was one of those. It was more of a experience actually than more than kind of a game focus type of thing. It was more. It was in platforming. I felt that the combat was a bit. It seemed like they were kind of shoehorning that in just for the sake of having you do things. I think people would, yeah, like you said, if it wouldn't have been a good investment to pay $60 for a game if you're going to just be platforming the whole thing. But I like the platforming; it's really good.
Yeah,
but the combat was pretty simplistic.
mm-hmm. The combat is functional than really fun, and you get a nice cool flow going when you're doing the platforming, but it's just this really weird game that is not. It's not. I don't want to say it's cinematic, just because I hate using that word, but it's it's kind of this big spectacle of these ideas and characters that they want to get across, and it's not like any big budgeted game, just because of the fact that you have it's all like there's just really three primary characters in the entire game, and it's just like you're just stuck with them, and there's no kind of like outside voice, or it's not like a Halo game where like combat evolved, just like, oh, okay, you're this guy, you can talk, and then Cortana talks to you, and you have all these supporting characters talking to you. It's like, no, it's just these three characters, and then and you just get to know about them more and more intimately than, say, I don't know, maybe something like along the lines of, oh gosh darn it, or like Metal Gear Solid 3 Snake Eater, where you get to know Snake. No, okay, but you don't really get to know him that well, just because his interactions are usually just very, very plot based. Like, oh, I need to go over here, now I need to go over here. Whereas there's this overarching goal in that game in Enslaved, and then they'll just be talking along the way of like how they feel, or their situation that they're currently in, and they'll just take time to tell each other, everything that they want to tell each other. And I really like that, but it was never going to do well as a $60 game, because it was a new IP, B, sort of a weird hodgepodge of platformer action, post-apocalyptic, beautiful world, and C, it was from Ninja Theory, from the guys who did Heavenly Sword, which didn't really blow people out of the water like Sony was intending it to.
Yeah. It was. Yeah, it's not. I mean, it's not one of those games where you're going to be paying. You're going to pay $60 right out of the gate. It's certainly a game that could have benefited a bit more from the that $30, $40 range, or something like that, or maybe if it was possible, maybe get it be on the arcade section.
Yeah, that would. How great would that have been? Just like have like that as a really big arcade download. And I know I don't know whether it was in the last year or past 2 years that they bumped up the amount that you could download in terms of the gigabyte space. But I think it was actually changed for Resident Evil 4 just because of how big that game was, and it's just I definitely think we need new methods of distribution as well as pricing system, and they're just right now we're kind of caught in this weird struggle between publishers trying to find a place in the kind of new market, but doing whatever they can to support their old market mentality, and it's not really working.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, going back on the Deadly Premonition director's cut, there are some newer things to it than the original 360 release. There's going to be some newer scenarios written by Swery. It's going to include a new prologue and epilogue, and it's going to feature a brand new character. So, from the stuff that I've read in interviews, they're mainly just kind of tweaking some of the things, whether it's controls and kind of textures and things like that, and loading times. But the core main game is still there. It's not really completely changed or anything. Just kind of adding on to what is already a really endearing and a quirky game.
And I am looking forward to see what they change or what they keep in, or like original content that they cut and re-edit, just because it was this weird, such a weird, splendorous combination of the wacky, the weird stuff that makes you irritated, stuff that makes you love it, and gosh darn it, I am just so glad that game is in existence.
Yeah, a lot of my favorite moments are from the main story, and also from the main not the main, but the side quests, as well as all those encounters you have with Keith at the milk barn, where he tells you these ghost stories about these tragic accidents that happened in the town, and you go there, and then you're facing all these other kind of the same enemies you face throughout the whole game, and then you unlock some special items when you do those side quests, like unlimited ammo on those semi rifles, semi-automatic guns, or if you do other stuff for like the graveyard guy, you get like a flamethrower and just all those other little items that just make the game a bit more of a breeze to get through, especially some of the boss encounters for the most part, and just add to the kind of overall experience, and just characterization of a lot of the other characters that may or may not get as much attention in the main story, but you can get quite a lot of attention in the side quests.
I unfortunately sped run through that, just seeing like where the game would go first off, and not really understanding like, oh, unlockables can be achieved like just by talking to the characters. But when I started my second playthrough, I started talking to a lot more of the townspeople, and I just love how varied. And you know what the strangest thing about this script is that it feels like at times like somebody who's just starting to write a script, and I mean like a high school level script. Like it seems like, okay, this is very obvious, and then they'll do something like really subversive and just really strange to the point of like, okay, wow, this person who's writing this is a genius. And then they'll do something like really right after that, like immediate strange, like, oh, okay, it's like a John Cassavetes movie. It's like Faces, but like in a video game format with these weird people having psychedelic flashes of people trying to kill you. What's up with that?
Yeah, it has a lot of those awkward moments, and that are unintentionally or intentionally, fun to watch play out, and see it have this kind of minor things about somebody pay off later on in the main story. Just those side quests really add a lot of characterization to a lot of the characters in the game. Just the Emily stuff is good when you're fetching items for her so she can cook. Cause she throughout the whole game, like she said that she's not a very good cook. Cause she's like terrible. And then that one final side quest, and you get all the recipes to make something that she actually pays off, and ends up being a good meal that York expresses his delight for, and he's very blunt about things where he should be a bit more conscious of how he comes off
Yeah,
with other people.
he doesn't have that social filter.
Yeah.
And you know what I love is that I'm looking over this on GameFAQs, and I forgot just how ridiculous the achievements are. And I don't even mean that they're relatively easy to collect, because it's like, okay, you complete episode 1, episode 2, episode 3. It's the name of them. It's like, okay, you completed all episodes on easy difficulty. Do you know what the name of the achievement is called? It's called game. I'm so sorry.
No, go ahead.
It's called game completed on easy with an exclamation mark.
It's simplistic achievements.
They didn't go for a pun. They didn't go for just like, like a really cool or clever way to say it. It's like game completed on easy.
Yeah, most of the achievements are just those of completing the game on a certain difficulty, or just completing chapters. There aren't really much to it. Like most other games have this, these achievements that you gotta really work hard at discovering or doing certain type of things. But most of it is, for the Premonition, pretty simplistic. Beat the game on normal, easy, or hard, or collect all the trading cards and things like that. That's pretty simple. So yeah, I've seen some screenshots of it. There's some minor differences.
Look at this. Let me look at this.
Some of the textures look pretty good, but as you can see in the compared to the PS3 and 360, the color looks different.
Yeah, but they don't. That one, the director's cut looks like it's. It looks more, for lack of a better term, more realistic. Where the one, but what I love about the one on the bottom, it looks like it's just like this purple filter. It gives this almost sickly look, and I don't. Maybe like that's part of the charm, where like the look of it like seems just a little bit off. Where you have like these nice character models, and then like they have the weird kind of the stilted facial animation, and I don't know. I don't want to see like one of those like artsy fartsy kiss asses who are just like, oh, it wouldn't look the same if you made it look better. But there's something, I don't know, about the screenshot where it looks a little bit off because it looks so much better, or at least it looks a lot more clearer.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure what it is. What is it?
Yeah, there's some like slight changes, but not completely. But I mean that filter for the 360 version I got used to, and yeah, there are just some small little enhancements with its character models and some of the environmental stuff too, as you can see on this other one. But yeah,
look at this one.
You can see that the cans have some more detail to them.
Oh, but I want them barely legible.
So like video games do, like they have that poster, and then in the game you can barely read it.
I want these to look like posters that you would find in Resident Evil 1. Just like on the wall. It's just like, okay, it's just like a brown piece of paper with just literally just like scribbles on it. Like somebody just like took a marker and just like slashed it across the paper. It's like, okay, this is our poster.
Yeah. So it's gonna be interesting when that comes out. I'm probably gonna be checking out some videos of it on YouTube. Probably follow someone's LP of it. I'd be interested to see what sort of tweaks they've made to it. Probably won't change the complete the complete story of it or anything. It's just making it look a bit more presentable. But yeah, that was, like you said, that was like part of the charm of the original version. But it's probably what they initially wanted it to kind of look and things like that, but they couldn't do. The important part is that they, at least improved the map a little bit from
Yeah.
what I hear. They improved the navigation in Director's Cut. The small GPS map on the left corner on the screen can now enlarge and will overlay the screen in real time, so you know exactly which way you're moving on the map. Unfortunately, the map doesn't have the zoom in or out, but with the new overlay feature on the screen, navigating Greenvale is definitely easier. So
Thank goodness for that. Just because you can get lost or God help you if you run out of gas on your way to the next mission. You're like, crap, gotta jump on out over to the other side.
yeah, I unfortunately didn't run out of gas too often in that game. I think I ran out of gas like once or twice, and then like just I was like it is one of those games where it's beneficial to drive on the road because it's a lot faster than driving on the grass. It's like slows you down like like half of your speed. Like you're already going slow enough, like 40 miles an hour, and then once you go on hitting the grass and the hay in the countryside, you're gonna go like 20 miles an hour. And it's cool when you do the side quest. You get York's car from the beginning. It's like super like the fastest car in the game, and it's everything like handles better and like everything in the car. Like that's like the car to get for kind of more of an ideal navigating through the whole town. And I don't think it doesn't waste as much gas as other cars do. It's green,
Yeah. It,
eco friendly, man.
last time, but just on the fact that it's just this weird combination. It's like a poor man's Resident Evil 4 crossed with Grand Theft Auto, and just it's so strange, and I love it.
Yeah, I think that it's interesting. It's nice to go in a bit cold with this game. It's either going to be something people like a lot, or people that just don't get the appeal of it. And we'll see how it does on the PS3. I'll be looking forward to some videos of it and see what they add in there. I'm a big fan of. I saw a screenshot where he has one other thing they added. I saw because you can get a bunch of clothes in that game. You know, collect them throughout the whole throughout the whole endeavor. I saw he was wearing one of the screenshots. I saw he was wearing a Hawaiian shirt. Hawaiian shirt time, baby.
Just for that.
Some people can pull it off. Some can't.
You either look like a guy who's trying too hard to look cool, or you look cool. Like it's not like it's either or. You can't ever just like, oh, he's just a guy who just got a Hawaiian shirt. No, you need to be either cool enough to wear it, or you're going to be looking like an imitator, just trying to like, oh, look, I'm cool. No, you just have a Hawaiian shirt, and you do that shirt disservice, sir.
Yes.
Yeah, and I also, by the way, speaking of cool looks, I like the fact that your Spill.com profile page has the not staff logo across the bottom, just in case anyone got confused.
Oh yeah, just wanted to make sure I don't misinterpret anything.
I think that should be a new a slogan or a new standard for the Spill.com user. Just like let's like put like different things that like to convince people, like they make them you think like, oh, it's staff. Oh, wait a minute, it's not. Or it's like we have like one person who's like has in giant letters like staff underneath infection.
Yeah, I'm surprised no one said anything about that. Or yeah, well, I decided to do the opposite and put not staff on there. No one's called me out on it.
Dude, it's Spill.com. They don't give a fuck about it anymore. Do you really think that they look like we intently look upon our users' profile page and we saw that what you're doing is that's nice, but what they're not gonna care. They can't even run their fucking website well anymore. Hollywood.com is running that place into the ground.
Oh man! And once it took away the features of changing your background image of your page, I was disappointed. I had a nice page too. I had like the best page on that site for a while.
It's strange how with more updates, there's more freedom being taken away, and then the fact I'm not going to bitch about Spill.com just because there have been good times for me, but I have just really have had it. They've really just kind of abandoned what they originally set out to do, and I think they can still make a 180. They can still pull out of the tailspin, but I'm hesitant about their recovery right now.
Yeah, I wasn't really intending to go in and a rant about the site.
No. It's well deserved. Go on.
No, I'm not even. I don't even have that strong of a feeling about it as much anymore. It's just that no, I just decided to do the opposite and see if anyone would say anything. I didn't expect to get in trouble or anything. I was just like saying, just do the opposite. People, because some of them have staff on there. I'm going to do not staff.
No, I don't think anybody really cares, and just because one, I think they can look at it and see it's a joke, and they're like, okay, it's not staff.
That's what I meant. Yeah.
Also, what I meant before, in that I'm really angry with the site, is that I love this site. I loved it back in 2008 and 2009 when I came over from the YouTube page, and I really loved it. And now I think they're kind of really stagnating and not really sure where to go. And it's just because I love them so much that I want to see them do well.
Oh yeah, I think that goes for a good amount of things. Not all the time, but people who express their opinions on about something that they don't necessarily agree with or something like that. I think it shows a lot that they do care. Sometimes they go a little bit over extreme,
yeah.
As we've known and found out with the whole Mass Effect 3 thing. But yeah, it is what it is. Now, I just post the podcast on here. That's about it.
Yeah, that's all. That's all. Until they start like directly just taking off our posts, our blog posts, and our profile pages, then I don't think there's going to be too much of a problem. But just that, and the fact that every day they get like 10,000 new spam bots that they set up profiles like, "Hi, I am Doug from Sri Lanka. Have you ever needed new shoes before of Nike or similar quality? Well, come on down." It's like, "What are your favorite movies?" "I like to sell secondhand jewelry." Like, I don't think that this man is here to talk about movies.
Oh no, there's plenty of that. A good chunk of the time, in the early days, especially.
Yeah, but it's one of those things, like with the growing pains of a site starting to get a lot more noticeable limelight, and with that, there's going to be the eventual influx of people who are spam bots and people who just don't care about the site and just kind of join just to see what it is. And okay, I promise I'll get off of the subject right now, but it just, I think that they're in a weird place right now. I think that they definitely can get out, and I still love the personalities behind the site. One in particular, and I'm not going to say who or on which group, but it's like I think that they can do better than this individual. But that being said,
you'll tell me later.
Yeah, I'm telling you, I will not start a flame war with this person or people defending this person. See how I'm wisely avoiding gender, because that might narrow it down for people who are smart enough to figure out what. So, but anyway, I love Spill.com. I hope they can just do a turnaround.
Yeah, because we do care about the site ultimately, and I mean, if it wasn't for this site, we wouldn't have done this podcast, or I wouldn't have done that internet radio show, all that stuff.
We wouldn't have met, and we wouldn't have just met in that cafe while the flying in slow motion, and then the pink hue comes across the screen to take my breath away. Do 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 do. And then we were across, several time zones, so that didn't work out either. So, hey, this is the next best thing.
Yes, I mean, a lot of good came out of the site, and it was fun to during the early years of it. Met a lot of cool people, and got this podcast up and rolling, and keep going, and then trudging forward strong with every episode.
We we are. You know what? I am just really glad that we've been doing this for so long. I really couldn't ask for any better fans out there than you guys, and thank you for your support over the years and the questions, and just for being just so awesome. So thank you.
Yep. Thank you. Did you think we'd be doing this for this long?
I thought I'd be dead.
I know. I thought I'd leave the side and not turn back, walk away like an explosion.
Let me clarify that, because I don't want people to think I had suicidal thoughts. I don't. I just wanted to say I thought I'd be dead in the fact that just I'm pretty incompetent at everything. So the only reason why I'm still around is by the grace of people who are kind enough to realize that I'm too stupid to understand how life works. So like for right now, I'm like, wow, I figured out how to put pants on and still walk out the door with a smile on my face. That is good. That is very good on me. And so yeah, and I didn't know what I would be doing like 4 years ago, where I was like, okay, I'm going out to college. I have this kind of interest in video games and movies and the industry and business of it all, and I'm very I'm very interested in going in somewhere. And so fortunately, through the great podcast of Splinter, I don't recall what the last one was. Was it just called the Colin Show?
It was Splinter 47 show. Yes.
And like the Alan Parsons Project, where
That's right.
When so I called in, and and the rest, as they say, is history. And so I'm very, very glad to still be doing this.
Yes, still to this day have fond memories of the early shows we did, especially that one where I edited in a way where we're like in a pub or something like that. That was a weird one. Like I think it's the first one we did, but before it was named the name it's now. It was an interesting one to listen to a while not too long ago. It was funny.
Mm-hmm. It's a grand old time to go through those recordings and just pick out some of the best ones and just listen that up, and like, wow, I still sound like I'm 50 years old in these past ones.
Yeah, if we ever reached like the a good kind of respectable milestone of episodes, we got to look into the archives and pick out some moments of the podcast that we enjoyed and do some sort of show on it or something. And there's so much. I don't know if you're ever gonna get through all of them and pick out the ones we enjoyed a lot. But I'm definitely have a couple in mind of the CH's rants and soapboxes.
Well, I would be more than happy to go on through them all with you and select out some of the nuggets of gold from them thar hills.
Most definitely.
So, are you ready for questiones? If we have nothing else to talk about it.
Yeah, I'm good to go on the questions side of things. And let's see here. We got a question here from the Ultimate Snyder Man.
Snyder Man does whatever a Snyder can.
And his question is, what iconic video game characters do you think should get the reimagining treatment? For me, it would be good old Duke Nukem. That's a tough one. I don't think about either characters or if it's about characters, the reimagining thing. I never get into much deeper thought of which one could use some sort of new take on. I know they're with the comic books and with superheroes. They always get there's always a different kind of take on that character by someone else, and
Yeah.
some of it becomes what defines the character in future interpretations. Like Alan Moore did the comic book of The Killing Joke, which really kind of made his backstory more used in I guess the future interpretations of the Joker.
Also, and you're right. I mean, sometimes they're changed for the better to make them much more interesting characters, and not in a way that's really cheap or that actually that you lose the character in the process. Like Spider-Man being taken over by a 70-year-old guy just because he's angry and wants to fuck his wife. That's a good change for the better, because everybody that's what people love about Spider-Man, the fact that he has another man living inside his brain trying to take over.
Exactly.
That's what people want.
That sounds weird.
I'm thinking to myself, you know what would have made The Godfather better? If Marlon Brando's character was constantly at a psychic battle with somebody else who was trying to take over his body. That's what we want. That's what we remember from the character.
Body snatchers type of gimmick.
Or better yet, like, let's have like a Don Corleone like mentally fighting off Brad Pitt's character from Snatch in his mind. So, like he occasionally like talks like, "Yeah, you have to kill this man for me. Well, I don't know who he is," and then like he'll go like, "Ah, yeah, do you like dags? Of course you like dags."
Both trying to understand what they're saying.
Yeah, do you like dags? I think you like dags.
Ooh, we'll come up on top. The most understandable.
Oh my god!
Of the two.
You thought of that is the best comic book crossover that has never happened, and I call dibs.
Copyright that. Yeah. Go to the archive department.
Just gotta wait for both those characters to get into the public domain, and then they're mine.
Yes, that's gonna be a long while.
Mm. It's
we should write this down in case we forget.
I forget most of the things I've already said. I don't even remember what I was talking about. But to answer Snyderman's question, I'm not really happy right now with a lot of the stuff that they try to reimagine to be darker. Like for Devil May Cry, I actually prefer that of what they did. And I would actually like to, I like the change in the character and the tone and the fact that it's now they actually explain the character of Dante and they give at least a solid story, not a great story, but still a solid effort. Maybe Duke Nukem. I don't know. I still think there's like maybe a little bit more of a coherent narrative. Like maybe it was just like the ludicrousness, yet the coherent story of something like Army of Darkness, where he's like an Ash character, where he's just making one-liners and doing badass things, and that's true to his character. But he also goes to this kind of adventure with this kind of consistent cast of characters. And I would actually like to see a game that I want to see Killzone be reimagined, just because of the fact that it is a series that was. I think it was more created out of the need to have something compete against Halo than really have something of its own imagining. Because like, even since the first game, they were telling, "Oh, it's the Halo killer," and it just feels so incredibly lifeless. Where when the humans are concerned, but as the Hellgas, I think those are very interesting antagonists, where they were kind of subjugated to this world, and they kind of see that as being treated unfairly. And I actually like that. I would love to see the series reimagined from the Hellgast's point of view, and actually be like seen as like these sort of untouchables who are writhing around kind of in the dirt, and they've made the best of their lives. But you have these kind of snooty upper class humans who are just like, you guys suck. Like, we are the superior race, and one day they just go like, you know what, fuck it, we're invading them. And I want to see that story. I don't want to see the story about these bland jarheads like giving one-liners and that they're not even good at. And and there's no characters there, and I just want to see like just these people who have this society built around the worst living conditions rising up, and I want to see kind of that imagining of just like I don't know, like I'm a big fan of like people being uh, taken from like a very very high place, thrown down to the kind of bottom of the bucket, and then they have to crawl their way back up. Like I'm a big fan of Count of Monte Cristo, just for that, and I'm and I would love to see that kind of reimagining.
Yeah, I guess the only thing I could think of is Duke Nukem at the moment. I don't know how it would be done because I'm not that good. I'm not that creative a writer, so I wouldn't know how to set it up. But yeah, I think the Duke Nukem is something that could be reimagined in a way for I guess more of kind of a modern take on it because he's very. I guess the whole appeal of it because he's very of the '90s and things of that ilk, but it just doesn't really resonate too much now in modern in the modern games. It's because characters um, have been written a lot better and become more kind of mature nowadays,
Mm.
and now it just comes off as just kind of lazy writing in terms of the character.
That's unfortunate.
It is. I have many of nostalgia for Duke Nukem. I think Duke Nukem 3D is a fun game still. Dated, but it's still a fun game.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And speaking of dated but fun, I was thinking about other games that could use the reimagining treatment, and I was thinking most of Rare's games could actually Rare's old games that could really use another shine through. I really enjoyed Perfect Dark, but I think it could be reimagined just a little bit more to have like not a serious story, but a really fun adventure story that it almost reached for me with Perfect Dark. I mean, I do really like the game, but I think there's just this little element that could be changed around to make it a lot more interesting.
Mm-hmm.
But I do like the fact that the first Perfect Dark game is like, oh, it's just fun adventure, aliens named Ellis, sci-fi, weird, future corporation stuff. Like I really like that. And then the second one was a lot more sedate, where it's like, okay, it's not as crazy. I want to see video games get crazy again, and not like in the over the top Gears of War way or Bayonetta, but I would like to see it kind of like interesting, crazy ideas.
Yeah, I think that'd be something
It's like,
to mix things up. Yeah.
and then,
So yeah, that's the only thing off the top of my mind. So
well, I mean, it's hard to think of reimagining just because of the fact that a lot of the characters sort of fit so well within the types of games that they kind of have been developed for, and there's not a lot of cases where a reimagining has proved exceptionally better than the last product. Like one of the reimagined franchises that just fell flat on its face is Bomberman, where they like.
oh, Bomberman.
Do you remember that one where the first one was like, oh, it's this cute bomber guy. He's going around and like, oh, this is cute. And then like during the start of the 360 generation, it's like, Bomberman's gonna tear your shit up with this bomb. It's like, what the hell's this? Who was at the meeting there? Like, you know what Bomberman needs? A giant scar across his helmet.
No, I like the older, earlier Bomberman games. Those are a lot of fun and just. I never played the newer kind of reimagining of it, but I've seen the box art, the cover art for that game on the 360 marketplace, and I was like, ugh, what is this? It didn't need this. Well, no one was clamoring for a darker badass Bomberman.
What's really weird is that I at first I thought that when I originally saw it, I thought it was like something like Capcom was doing with one of the Mega Man like 8, 9, and 10 releases, I think, where they were just like making these ludicrous looking cover arts that have nothing to do with the actual game. I thought like, oh, maybe this is their version, like Bomberman. Like, oh, he's actually still the cute little guy like going around with the bombs. Like, oh, I'm gonna blow you up, and yeah, it's like, no, they're serious.
Yeah. Would you say Sonic could use one, or I don't know?
Slick needs to die.
Yeah.
I don't even mean like the franchise should end. I mean they need to have a game where somebody comes out and just shoots Sonic in like a dark alley and he bleeds out and dies. And then that's the entire game. Just because this Sonic is one of the most abused is if not the most abused character in fiction in terms of how much they're whoring him out and how wrongly they've whored him out. I don't think there's ever been. He's in a weird place where he's famous enough to get people to buy his shit, and I do mean actual shit, not good game, not referring to shit as stuff. But he's popular enough so that people will buy his games, but not popular enough to where a Sonic team treated him with respect for the longest time. They started getting better with Sonic Generations and Colors, but honestly, it's just years of experimental nonsense. One of my favorite video series on YouTube is like a 60-part Let's Play of the Game Grumps who are trying to play Sonic 06, and it is the funniest thing because it starts as then like, okay, like, oh wow, this game sucks, and then it descends into the heart of darkness. These people, they are losing their minds by the time like episode 20 rolls around. And it's like it's basically them just like having yelling matches with each other. It's like, why did we do this game? This is your fault. And it really does demonstrate just how far the character has fallen since the days of the Genesis. And then they do this nonsensical shit where it's like, oh, what can we possibly do with Sonic? I know, let's make him a werewolf. What? That's the whole conceit that he's a werewolf. Like, okay, maybe Mario like has a new ability in a new Mario game, but that's not the only thing that Mario can do. He still jumps. He still like can access other abilities. Like with the Super Mario Sunshine, like you had that backpack that shot water, which was the flood system, I think it was called. But the game wasn't just about squirting things with a water gun. It was also like, oh, running and jumping, and it actually added to that core mechanic. And now it was just like, oh, let's just do this shit. They'll buy it anyway.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it probably is something that needs to stay in the past and probably move on to something more. I know Sonic fans will be pissed about that, but
fuck them. I don't care.
Yes.
They get up in arms over the fact that they change the eye color of Sonic. Like, there are people who make videos going on rants of like, oh, Sonic's eyes are green, not black. What the fuck are you doing? These people, you know what they deserve? They did like I am sorry, BioWare fanatics who went out of their way to like, oh, I hate the ending and here's why. You know, I am sorry if I insulted you in the past. I will bend down on my knee and ask for your forgiveness because these people are out of their goddamn minds. Like they had petitions about the fact that like Sonic in the Wreck-It Ralph movie was not voiced by Jaleel White, who played Steve Urkel in Family Matters, and it was somebody else, and I don't know who it was. I don't really care because these people have lost their minds. They are no longer functioning members of society. They are a part of the caste system, which it goes sane. It goes like intellectuals, sane human beings, feral children, and them. And they don't even deserve a title. They're just called them, and you automatically know who you're talking about.
You know, I gotta side with them, man. If it's Jaleel White, you gotta give him some work. He's got a voice Sonic, and he's become synonymous with that character, much like Nolan North to Drake.
White male protagonist in a video game.
That's right. Or David Bates in as Agent 47. you got to get Jaleel White on board.
The problem is that, like, okay, Nolan North with Nathan Drake and David. I'm sorry, David Bates.
David Bateson, yes.
David Bateson with Agent 47. Those have drama to them, at the very least, and you need a good voice actor to pull off drama. There is no drama in Sonic, and when they do try to use drama, it is laughable at best.
Well, maybe Jaleel can channel what was it, Steve Urkel's alter ego, Stefan.
Yeah, I fucking love Stefan. But no, I don't think they could do that. You know what they could do is that he could channel his performance from Big Fat Liar into the games, and who knows? Maybe he can pull out an A+ performance.
Maybe it could happen. Yeah, Sonic seems like a child star that had a lot of promise and is fallen off the deep end.
Seems like who's the kid who played Anakin in Episode 1, The Phantom Menace?
Oof, I don't remember that kid, but he was in Jingle All the Way.
Once again, I say, does anyone remember his name? But no, it wasn't Hayden Christensen. He played the adult version, and just as a side note, people, I'm not mad at him for not being good in the in the Star Wars prequels, just because nobody could make that dialogue good. So I don't really know because I don't really see a lot of his movies, but just from that, I'm not angry with him. But anyway, the guy who played Anakin, Sonic seems like that guy, that kid from Phantom Menace, who's just like, yeah, he's full of energy and life, and he has so much ahead of him, and then like he realizes he can't get out of the shadow of the first thing that he did, and so now he's just like at comic conventions signing autographs for like $10 and looking like, please God, just kill me now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think he said something about how he hated doing those films, and I guess it's one of those things where it stuck with him because people hated, loathed the prequels so much. So,
but at the very least, he had a choice. Where Sonic, he's a fictional character, so he really can't. He's going nowhere fast. Gotta go fast. Kill the dogs.
How ironic.
It's easy. It's so fun and easy to make fun of Sonic just because, God damn it, this guy, he is, wow. I mean, Sonic Generation and Colors were good, but you really wipe away all those years of crap, or Sonic 4 Episode 1.
I really dig this dissection of Sonic right here.
Yeah.
Did the game groups go through all the Sonic games? So they had to go through Sonic Racing?
No, it's funny. One of the Game Grumps, John Tron, he actually did an analysis of the racing game and just like, okay, none of this makes sense. There are rules here that are absolutely ridiculous. And there's like a song that they use from like a disco group of like, I'm sorry, it's like a female R&B singer, and it's just like, okay, why are you using the song? There are things that make no sense. Like you pick up what I assume are Chaos Emeralds, but apparently they don't add up into the final score. So it's like, okay, what the fuck's the point? And Sonic is, oh my gosh. And then they had like Sonic the Fighters, where it's like, okay, now it's a fighting game, and it's like Sonic is kind of like Star Wars, where they've had every single genre of video game be a part of that franchise, but kind of like Star Wars, it's not usually met with good success. Like, do you remember that Star Wars fighting game where it was like Boba Fett against Luke Skywalker and Han Solo? It just made no sense.
Yeah. Yeah, I do have was it Sonic Racing on the for the PC. I don't remember if it's a good game or not, but that soundtrack's pretty killer. I do listen to that soundtrack every now and then.
You poor son of a bitch. I am so sorry. The struggles that you must go on a day-to-day basis knowing that you have that game locked in your PC. It still exists.
Supersonic Racing. Da-da-da. Living in the city.
They use like these either like these huge sweeping Final Fantasy orchestrals or like these hard rocks. This hard this like heavy metal esque sort of like songs, and it doesn't. It's like, well, what are you trying to go for? This is not like no one's going to take this seriously.
Yeah, that the thing about that soundtrack, as much as I do enjoy listening to it, it doesn't really work that well for a Sonic game, but it is what it is. So that is enough Sonic talk there. Thanks for the question, Ultimate Snyder Man.
Thank you, Snyderman.
Led us into that discussion of Sonic, which we didn't even intend on going through with.
Sonic, he can really move. Sonic, he's got an attitude. Sonic, he's the biggest whore alive.
So to wrap up the podcast, why don't you read the last question we got here?
Certainly early. The question comes from Transmorpher, and she asks, Splinter, are you planning on picking up the Hitman HD trilogy? She actually asked two questions, but let's answer the first one.
First off, that question is good.
Yes.
And second, I will eventually pick that up. The only reason I'm not getting it right away is I've been looking for gameplay of it, and it just seems that as much as I like the games that are included in that trilogy pack, I think I feel a bit more better spending probably a good $20-$30 when it goes down in price over time, because I don't know, it just doesn't seem like I'm sure they put work into it, but it just seems like that you could play those games on the PC version and still get the kind of same looking results to it. It doesn't look too different, and I didn't expect them to change it completely, but as much as I like those first two games, like what's the Contracts is on there and Silent Assassin, those are good, but they're a little bit difficult to go back on because they're a bit dated. They kind of, it's one of those series, like much like other series, they develop the sequel after and tune the problems that the previous one had, and they're on and so forth, and Blood Money is the pinnacle of that type of gameplay for that series. It fixes most of the issues that the previous games had, whereas the AI was the most prominent one that I had the issues with trying to go back, because it was so inconsistent at times. You don't know when they were gonna figure you out or just start shooting at you for no reason, even though you were perfectly in the skies and did everything right. The AI can be a bitch sometimes. So I think I already answered the question, but I will pick it up eventually because it has a art book in there, and I'm quite a fan of the collecting the limited edition stuff for Hitman, because there's not really enough of it out there, and I love the characters and those in those games, so the game's art and things like that. So yeah, eventually I will. And Blood Money doesn't look too. It looks like the 360 version, so it's already in HD when it came out. So I don't know why you would throw that in there.
But what if it came out with an unlockable cheat code where it gave Agent 47 enormous knockers? Then it would be an H double D.
Yeah, it's a day one pickup right after that. But yeah, I mean, I could see why it's out for that reason, and Absolution's come out, and I think it's, for those who haven't played those games and are curious about it, I think it's probably worth a pickup. Blood Money is one that's pretty, I wouldn't say difficult to obtain, but it's difficult to find a reasonably fair price for that game, because I've seen eBay sales and on Amazon listings that go up to $40, $60, $70 at the highest for that game, because there aren't a lot of copies that were issued during the game's release. So now it probably won't be costly as it once was, since they're putting out the HD kind of collection for it.
absolutely. And I think yeah, nowadays I definitely think Hitman is a very very big franchise, and now people will be able to pick it up now that I think the console cycles, the mainstream has kind of hit video games, and everybody's going back and playing these original games, and getting the opportunity to play them. And but it is a little bit apprehensive when you want to play the HD collection or the beginning of the game. And if it's not like a 10 out of 10 game when it started off, then all those little flaws are going to start to kind of creep in that you'll see like, oh, they didn't do this in the sequels, or they didn't do that, or this. Like, for instance, the original Splinter Cell, which is, it's a good game, but, thinking about like, oh, well, they're going to fix all these problems. Like, there's these like little hiccups here and there. Like if I'm spotted here, the mission's over.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't make it bad, but it just is not as it feels a little bit inhibiting knowing where the series is going, or if there's a favorite of the franchise there, and then you're going back and like saying, oh, okay, well, I'm playing an entry into the franchise. It's not as playable as I would like it to be.
Yeah, I think that's pretty much it with me on Hitman, with those two games right there with Contracts and Silent Assassin. I dig the story a lot for Silent Assassin, but it's like you were saying, they had ideas that, and it was a good game at the time it came out, but it's just there are aspects of it that are just dated, that it's not so appealing to go back and play, because it's just, you have to get used to those dated mechanics and kind of work your way around them in order to get anything done. I mean, there are very good, memorable levels from that game that I do recall, and those are worth playing in and of themselves. But for that kind of price range, and I already have Blood Money, so and I could get those other two on the PC, but it's just one of those things where I'll have to consider getting it at a cheaper price. And just mainly for the art book, I'm more interested in anything else. But I would like to play those on the console, see how they fare. I mean, I could do that for the PC, but it just takes a lot of configuring the match the keys with the 360 controller.
Yeah, and I'm right there with you with the art book, and just what I love about some of the unlockable extras is just seeing a lot of the sketches and the artwork of the character designs that they were thinking of and toying with, and then coming back to it. And like what I love about DMC Devil May Cry is they've got a lot of unlockables. Like everything gives you an unlockable. Like get a kill, get these many kills with this gun. You get concept art. You go through all the levels in this difficulty. Then you get a lot more of these types of concept arts. And I love seeing the whole process of like, okay, they drew this up first, and then they kind of narrowed it down to what they were thinking of, and then they made the final draft of it, and then they had to take that and see how it translated into the 3D world. And I find that just enthralling to to read through and look at, and that's why I love the Metroid Prime trilogy as well, just because there's all those unlockable pieces of concept art that you can do.
Yeah, I like both the physical and the digital extras for games like that, where, like you were saying, there are in-game unlockables of just rough drafts of the artwork of the game and things of that nature, 3D renders, and the soundtrack to the game in the game, things like that you unlock throughout the game, gets you to replay it again, and just to unlock those little extras and things like that with the in-game currency that it has, like these certain amount of coins to unlock an art of the game, things like that. That's cool. So yeah, back to the question. I'll eventually pick it up, but I'll eventually pick it up, the trilogy HD. So if this is not really me deterring anyone from buying it. If you haven't played any of those prior Hitman games, it's worth checking out for that price, or maybe a $10 cheaper. It's worth it, and endeavoring into those past games, Blood Money especially.
Yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to going into Hitman Blood Money just because that one looks like a very kind of like maybe the chaos theory of Splinter Cell, where it kind of refined all those controls to a mere machine. It's got everything going for it just right, and yeah, I'm probably going to pick up the HD trilogy as well, but I might try to pick up Absolution before that. So
Yeah, it's a perfect example of those two. Yeah, that's what it is. Just the pinnacle of those two game series before the next gen game after with Chaos Theory and Blood Money.
mhm. it 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 is kind of one of those weird things where it's like, oh, they it was after the third game where in like in a trilogy of like a similar style and presentation where they kind of you got a mirror sheen to everything, and everything kind of fits within in kind of what it ultimately promises, like this Chaos Theory and Jack 3. I'd like to say, just like, because I thought the Jack and Daxter series was good, but Jack 3, that was a good one. Just out of memory, I was just like thinking like, okay, the third game, that's kind of one where the third game was obviously the best one of the bunch.
Yeah, that's how I feel about some of the Splinter Cell games and the Hitman games too. So yeah,
Yep. I think. Oh yeah, she had a part two to the questionnaires.
hmm
Are there any games that you play every year on any special occasion?
there is. I think that there's two actually that I'm gonna try to make it a annual thing, and the other one was like I mentioned earlier was Max Payne 2. I usually play every year, and not really during a special time or occasion, just when I feel like it, and future. Hopefully, in the future, I'm planning on playing Daily Premonition at least once a year. I guess during October.
Now, is there any particular reason why at the beginning, at the beginning of October, or?
Just get me in the mood for Halloween, and I love playing that game. So if it gives me an excuse to play it again, I'll certainly stick to that regimen every year.
Uh, I have a few. Um, like the first is sometime during December. I need to. I have a driving need to play during October. Luigi's Mansion. That is that's my Halloween game, just because it has ghosts, and what I love about it is it's a protagonist who is constantly scared the entire time. There's not one iota of bravery of just like, okay, I'm running off into the jungle to fight these guys. Like, no, it's like, oh God, what have I gotten myself into?
Nice, nice.
And there's one other one that's not exactly like a holiday celebration, and also maybe Dead Space on Halloween. I don't know. I haven't tried that yet, but I also for the July I always find a Metal Gear Solid 3 Snake Eater or Subsistence save where I've unlocked the Cold War camouflage as well as the American face paint camouflage, because the Cold War camouflage is the back of your camouflage suit is the American flag, and the front is like the Russian flag. But to balance that out, I wear the face camo of the United States flag, and so it has the added benefit of it giving the impression that because of how the camouflage works, the Cold War camo, enemies can't shoot right at you because they'll be shooting at their own flag. But I made it to the point where it looks like, okay, they can't shoot me because I got the American flag on my face. Freedom will destroy you, and just like run around with like automatic weapons and not be as silent as possible, just yelling at the top of my lungs, America, taking it to the commies, and just like rampaging through all of it, and just like not even trying to play stealthily, just like listen to me. I will destroy this entire country if I need to. You thought that nuclear bomb in the beginning was something. Oh, you have not met my interpretation of Snake.
Yeah, I recall having just a huge amount of customization to Snake after you beat the campaign with all those face paints and camo, which some of the camo was pretty ridiculous, and it's like completely defeats the purpose of trying to be stealthy because it's like 0% disguise. Is just like wearing this, out there American flagged inspired suit.
I would honestly wear a cape of the American flag if I could. Just like to go around like like knock knock, who's there? Freedom. And also, it just you can also go like to negative 40% camouflage, so where you can just like stand at like the opposite side of the level, and people will be like, what the hell is that? It's a guy wearing the American flag. And also, one of the best items that you can get in that game is the crocodile cap. So you can like wear all of that and a crocodile cap, just going around shooting people and just basically decimating the Soviet army. And that just makes me happy to be an American, where at least I know I'm free.
Yeah, I like that type of new game plus additions to some games where they give you that amount of detail to customization after you beat the game. It's fun. That's fun to do. I think you could do that with first Metal Gear Solid game where you could wear a suit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah. You could wear a tuxedo or an officer's uniform or there's like so many like, great additions. Like there's like the skull camouflage where where you just got have a skull paint on your face, and it's great just like to replay those scenes. Like you could watch your cutscenes again and just have the most ridiculous looking outfit on, like while they're having the most serious conversation. Just like the infinity camo is like face paint camo is like somebody just drew I think kanji symbols all over your face, and so like when they're trying to have a serious discussion, I thought it was like this is just hilarious. Like nobody, like she's not making any mention of like what are those on your face? Oh, don't worry about it. It's just something I picked up. Like there's one scene where he's waking up from a nap and he's got all the infinity symbols on his face, and it just looked like that he woke up from like a frat party where a Japanese dude just like drew all over him while he was passed out.
Yeah, some of that is pretty. It's pretty fun to do, but most of it is like materialistic. Some of it doesn't have much like benefits in terms of how it plays. That's how funny and ridiculous it is, but yeah, it works. Just to have that there to replay it again. It's unfortunate that like in Arkham City that some of the costumes don't, whatever you wear, if it's a different costume, it doesn't carry over to the cutscenes.
Yeah,
and I know recently when I was replaying Bayonetta, you could unlock some newer attire as well, where you can wear a shirt and panties, and that's about it. So,
God bless the Japanese.
God bless them.
And that would have been great if you could just like go around Arkham City and you can activate big head mode. That would be great if like in the cutscenes like everyone was just like, Batman, we need your help. Are you okay? Why? Nothing. Just are you suffering from some sort of allergic reaction? Because your head and hands are freaking enormous. Like, I'm fine. Don't worry about it. Where's Penguin? He went down that sewer, but I don't think your head's gonna fit down there.
Yeah, that I think some of the older Spider-Man games, the ones that were inspired by the '90s cartoon, had that new game plus where you could use other costumes that actually did have a materialistic and also effect on how you play the game, like the Bagman or
Yeah.
the symbiote suit where it's like unlimited webbing.
My favorite one would probably be the Spider-Man Unlimited suit, just
Oh,
because
the invisible one.
it's the one that you can turn invisible and just like walk through the entire level without anyone noticing you're there. But I also love the fact that uh, this was back in the '90s, where actually no, the early not decade, where there's like, okay, Spider-Man Unlimited has to compete with Batman Beyond, so we'll give him like a cape that's made out of webs. And the problem with like the translation to the video games is that they don't know how to make flowing material like a cape, so it looks really really stiff. Like someone just like had it just like dunked in starch, and it just like it's like sticking out like whenever he's running. It's like okay, doesn't look any more webbish than like if they just glued cardboard to the back of his suit.
Yeah, I have some very fond memories of those two early Spider-Man games that were very linear, and then the ones that wasn't very open world, but you could swing around. And I think like I think at the beginning of the game you start out it was like a tutorial level with the Stan Lee narrating the damn thing.
Stanley. I mean, it's going to be 100 years from now, and there'll still be Stanley being there's like, greetings, true believers. Can you believe I'm alive? Neither can I.
Like that and Enter Electro or a lot of fun from what I remember. I'm curious to read if Black Magic does a review on those. See, because he's been doing some of the older Spider-Man games, reviewing some of those, which we appreciate him taking the time to do that and posting it on the Bloody Thumbs group page. So those are good. Yeah, it got me thinking a lot of Spider-Man 2, especially how at the time it was pretty damn good comic book, well, pretty damn good movie based game. And now looking back, it's not that great, but
No, I mean,
the main appeal of it and what worked was just the open world aspect of it, and the swinging was good for it. It's just it suffered a lot from repetitive side story stuff, and I still remember having to go through that stupid Balloon Boy.
that kid must die. I am so glad that in Ultimate Spider-Man, the adaptation of the comic book, where they like one of the things that you as Venom do is like you see the little balloon boy, and he's like, "Yay, balloon!" That's Venom's first victim. Like even before the game really starts, like, listen, you suffered through that balloon boy. Here's your opportunity. We don't condone violence towards children, except in this one case. Go get him, because there's no other instance of you eating like children. There's no like any other children in the entire game. It's just for that one moment.
That sounds awesome.
Oh, it is wonderful. And also, what games do you play at Christmas? Are there any like I like that even if they're not like traditional?
Uh, Not recently. I haven't really plopped down and played anything specifically during not Halloween. It's Christmas. Not anything. Not anything comes to mind.
I used to be pretty big into not finishing, but starting to play Super Mario World. You just my cousins would always. We have a pretty big family, so my cousins would usually come over for Christmas, and we would occasionally put up the Super Nintendo and just play Mario World, no matter how many years down the line it's been. And so like that always brings up kind of Christmas memories, just because that was a big time that we usually would have a family reunion.
Mm.
But yeah.
Yeah, maybe get on some Yoshi's Island again.
Yeah, Yoshi's Island. So good, so good. I did not have the opportunity to play it on the Super Nintendo, but I did get to play it on the Game Boy, and that was a really good game. I was pleasantly surprised.
Yeah, it's a great platformer, and it's a terrific soundtrack for the SNES version. I don't know how it differs from other versions, but that soundtrack is phenomenal. It still is. I remember most of the I could hum most of the songs from that game. That's how deep it's stuck to me as a young lad playing that.
Well, I mean, also you got to give credit where credit is due. Nintendo knows how to score their franchise music. They always like for Donkey Kong or for Metroid or Zelda or Mario. They always have those catchy tunes. Like a lot of games these days can like have those big orchestral sweeping scores, but if you don't have the basic tune to make people hum to, it's worth nothing. And that's what the Mario franchise does especially well.
Mm-hmm. So yes, that's some of the things that we play on a special occasion every year. Thank you, Transmore, for that question. And yeah, that just about wraps up the podcast here. We did. I don't think we mentioned the episode name. Episode 126.
Yes, indeed.
And other than that, so follow us on the tweets, the Twitter. Mm-hmm. I'm at Splinter47, and CH is at CH_Gorog.
I did post a tweet within the past 2 weeks.
You did?
Yes. It's and I'm actually proud of myself for that. So I will definitely be trying to. I know I say this every episode, but I'll definitely try to be doing a little bit more Twitter than usual.
Looking forward to it. So that in the YouTubes and the iTunes page as well.
In the Spill.com page under the group section.
Yes. And if you having trouble with any of those, just Google. Google is your friend. Remember that when they take over the world. Yes.
Most certainly. But yeah.
Yeah, keep up with anyone out there. Keep up with my Let's Play of Max Payne 2. I'm enjoying that endeavor. I've already got 5 parts up there, and we'll see. I will definitely be finishing that. I normally say that I don't. I normally say I would finish a game as an LP and never do. There are a couple of ones I haven't completed, but I was, fortunate enough to do a couple that I did finish, like Charles Barkley, Shut Up and Jam, and the Don't Take It Personally, Babe, and Just Ain't Your Story visual novel one I did a while back.
I'm very much looking forward to seeing the Max Payne 2 Let's Play, and I wish you the best of luck in your noir gritty adventures.
Yes, and heavily written metaphors.
Well, if only you could download the Mark Wahlberg skin, then the true gaming experience would be complete.
Oh God.
Oh, Marky Mark, or better yet, Marky Mark during his time in the Funky Bunch.
That maybe be good DLC. Has anyone ever released the DLC after the game has been out for over 5 years?
Dude, you never know. I mean, there are mods out there of The Sims still going on from the original game, so I wouldn't be surprised.
Oh yeah, I know there's already been mods of just things that change the game and have add a whole new kind of story and experience to it, like those 2 Max Payne 2 mods where you can play the whole thing with the Kirsten Bale skin at Equilibrium. So
cool.
That's pretty awesome.
Can you pick up a puppy and have it lick your face?
I haven't gotten in too deep with the mod, so maybe it's a possibility.
Okay, well, let me know. Let me know if you find that.
I don't think they modeled any dogs in Max Payne 2, so the jury's still out on that.
Okay, well, a man can dream.
So yeah, this has been episode 126 of Bloody Thumbs podcast. Thank you all for joining us. I am Splinter47 signing off.
See you. Bye-bye.
Have a good week.